HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, a Beasley Media Group station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Now, Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Hey, good Tuesday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salchunas, and it's the Midday Show. It is 97.5 The Fanatic, and it is the city of brotherly love and the city of Saquon Barkley. Wow! Unbelievable. You know, all day yesterday, we're doing the show where we're trying to figure out, oh, my God, are they going to get Saquon? Is this real? Is this news real? All this smoke, and then we're figuring out there's a lot more than smoke. There's freaking embers. And then the embers became a bonfire, and we're going, oh, my God, they're going to get him. They're really going to get Saquon Barkley, aren't they? And then I'm driving home, and boom, with Bill and Ricky, dang, the Eagles get Saquon Barkley. I pinched myself this morning to make sure it was actually real. I literally had to open up Twitter this morning to make sure the stuff I was tweeting yesterday in excitement was actually real. Did I get duped? Was I retweeting fake accounts? Did this really happen? I woke up in the middle of the night. I was like, let me put on the NFL Network. Just make sure they're actually talking about Saquon to the Eagles. Tell me this isn't a Frank Gore situation. It's actually happening, and he's so bought in. He's doing the edits on Instagram, right? He's got many men from Fitty playing, switching from the Giants jersey to the Eagles jersey. Like, holy hell, this is real. They got Saquon Barkley. Was it a lot of money? Hell yeah, it was. Does that freak me out a little bit? Of course it does. But come on, dude. Like, I'm sorry. I'm going to be boyish. I'm going to be childish. I'm going to be a fan. This is awesome. You bring in a premier back, a position that we freaking love in this city. I know we like to put our football caps on, right? Smartest fan base in all sports, so we overthink things all the time. And, but the money and, you know, you can get running backs for much cheaper, and you can draft running backs later in the round. You look at Isaiah Pacheco. He was a 7th-round pick. Look, I'm the guy that's been saying it. I'm the guy that's been pointing out Isaiah Pacheco. I'm the guy that's been pointing out the moves that the Eagles have made the last couple of years with running backs on one-year deals or the final year of their rookie contract or drafting a guy like Miles Sanders and just playing him until the final year of his deal, and then you move on from him. I'm the guy that's been pointing out how that has been a working factor for the Eagles. We ran a poll the other day. Do you want them to do the fun or splashy offseason or stick with what's worked? And almost half of you wanted to stick with what's worked, which means you wouldn't have gotten Saquon Barkley. But you are lying to yourself if you're not excited about the Eagles getting Saquon Barkley. I can't believe it. This offense, because now you have a guy coming in here with a clue, and Kellen Moore, and not the tandem of Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson, whatever the hell they were doing last year. You have Jalen Hurts, who, let me say this right now, because this is a show of sunshines and rainbows today, right? Today's a day, green-colored glasses. Today's a day where we celebrate EAGLES, Eagles. Jalen, there's no excuses for you next year. All right? None. You have no excuses next year. You have Saquon Barkley. You have A.J. Brown. You have Devontae Smith. You have Dallas Goedert. I swear to God, week one, if I hear a caller call in after a week one offensive performance that's lackluster and say, well, it's another new scheme, I don't know. No. This is a football team that you go out there, you don't have a playbook. Play schoolyard BS. I don't care. This offense, with, oh, by the way, you know, we're all so worried about the money being allocated to the running back and wide receiver and the quarterback. You still have a lethal offensive line. Landon Dickerson, the highest paid guard in NFL history. You got Mailata. You got Dickerson. You got Cam Jurgens, who used high draft capital to replace Jason Kelsey. Lane Johnson on the right side, and whoever the right guard ends up being. Man, unbelievable day yesterday. And that wasn't the only news, right? That wasn't it. Right? Yesterday we had Bryce Huff as well, which I know people are worried about the money that he got, but I like the move, and here's why. This move is exactly the same move that they made for Hassan Reddick a few years ago. You probably overpaid the guy a little bit for what he has done so far in the league. But if he can accomplish what they hope he can accomplish, you're going to end up having him on an incredible deal. And that's what Hassan Reddick is upset with his current contract because of what he's been able to accomplish since coming to the Eagles. That's why he wants to get a new deal. That's why the Eagles allow him to seek a trade. You bring in a guy like Bryce Huff, who has probably over-exceeded expectations based off his snap count in New York, and now you're going to bring him in here hoping that he can have more than 10.5 sacks with the lack of snaps that he played last year on a very good defense in New York. He comes in here. He's probably going to be an every down edge rusher. Obviously, he'll be rotated out at times. It's not going to be like it was last year where they ran Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat into the ground. Bryce Huff, hopefully, let's see if he can step up with more snaps and maybe produces more in terms of sack total and pressures, which was very high last year. He had a tremendous season last year, and he wasn't an everyday down lineman. That's a great move for the Eagles. It's a smart move for the Eagles. And they're not done yet. That's the beauty of it. Derrick Gunn's tweeting last night that the Eagles still have interest in Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, which is still a big deal to me because, you need a safety. The Saquon Barkley thing's great. I'm not going to ignore the fact that the defense still has a lot of issues, but they're not done yet. I'm driving in this morning, and I was listening to Johnny the K, and I was listening to the morning show, and, they're talking about how, the defense still one of the worst defenses in the NFL, and they basically added Bryce Huff, but they're still talking about trading Hassan Reddick and trading Josh Sweat, and Fletcher Cox is retired. Fletcher Cox was very good last year. Okay, they didn't sign Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff and say, all right, pack it up. See you guys at OTAs. They're not done yet. They're going to keep on making moves. They have to make moves. And so what they're going to do is they'll probably sign another player to start on defense. They'll probably make a trade for somebody to play on defense. And then they go into the draft. And for all of us that have preached youth movement, right? How many of you have not, I'm pretty sure everybody's talked about youth movement at this point because we saw what's worked with Kansas City. So why not do a youth movement while also bolstering your offense the way that you did with all the money you're putting into the offense the way that you did, and now you just need to hit in the draft. Now, obviously, there's the concerns about hitting in the draft. It's not really been the forte of Howie Roseman and the Eagles. But you got to still hope, right? What would you rather do? What's the caveat? All right, so you don't sign Saquon Barkley. You get a running back for cheap. You probably sign a big-name defensive player, right? Which is great, which is what a lot of people wanted. Okay, so that's one player out of 11 on the defensive side of the ball. You still need to hit on players in the draft. Whether you sign Saquon Barkley or not, you had to hit on players in the draft to make your defense better, to make your defense younger. Now, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, got to step up this year. Milton Williams, you got to step up this year. It's the three of them right now. It's the three of them. Those are your three main guys in the middle of the defensive line. Bryce Huff will be on the outside, and we'll see what they end up doing next. I'm not in love with the Nolan Smith potential idea of him being an everyday down lineman or a guy that plays a lot more snaps this year. He deserves to play more snaps, not 16%. But the PR tour that they're doing is a little bit ridiculous, talking about how high they think of Nolan Smith. But yesterday was day one, guys. Here's the thing for the people that are like, oh, my God, they need to do more. This isn't good enough. It was day one of legal tampering. It wasn't even the real league yet. The free agency doesn't technically start till Wednesday, guys. So for anybody that's feeling a certain type of way, or where I'm hearing John talk about backup quarterbacks, it's March 12th. Yesterday was March 11th. It was day one of legal tampering, and day one was a freaking home run for the Philadelphia Eagles. I would love to hear from you guys. I'm fired up. I'm pumped up. I don't care if I sound childish. I'm going to be, because this is a freaking Lamborghini, Ferrari, whatever you want to call it. The Tesla truck, whatever you want to call it, that's what this offense is. And oh, by the way, they actually have an offensive coordinator that has a brain. Would love to hear from you. 610-632-0975. Now, on top of all this, on top of my excitement, I'm going to talk to you guys about something and ask you guys to do something or see if you're willing to do something. It's something that I did last year Tom, I think you were working with me that day. He sure was. Tom Alvord filling in for Ray today. Congratulations to Temple Women's Hoops. They move on after their triple overtime win last night. So Tommy's with us till Wednesday at the earliest. At the latest, whatever. So, I had a topic last year, right before the regular season started. And few of you were willing to do it. I'm going to see if you're willing to do it today. Are you thankful for Howie Roseman? I'll explain why more next that you should be. And it's not just based off of what the Eagles did yesterday and what we expect them to continue to do. It's also what teams around the league are doing. My God, I don't know how that man keeps on getting paid. You like that? You like that? I'm sure he likes his bank account. Holy hell. We'll talk about that next, all right here at 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Free agent frenzy. I'm Tom Apple.
Best show ever starting at 2. Now more with Andrew Salchunas on 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Man, it is 10:20 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. 10 o'clock hour brought to us by Window Nation. Take advantage of Window Nation's 50% off sale on all style windows, plus make no down payment with no payments and no interest for 12 full months. Call 866-90Nation or visit windownation.com. I've never had a cigarette in my life. I'm being honest with you guys. Went outside and just smoked one. I had to talk about Saquon and the Eagles offseason after just one day. So, I understand now.
A little flustered.
It was a crazy first segment. Maybe I went a little over the top. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I feel exactly like how most of you feel. But honestly, I don't know how anyone could be anti at this point. Seriously, I understand that it's a lot of money. Good morning, Tom. What's going on?
What's going on, buddy?
It's a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
And it's scary. When the terms came out, it was more than I expected. Now, if I put football guy cap on, 3-year deal means 2-year deal. Right. 6-year deal means 5-year deal. 4-year deal means 3-year deal. Whatever the number of years is, subtracted by 1, because that's how it works in the NFL for both sides. Either they want to rework, either the player wants to rework the deal, or the team finds a way to get rid of it. Right. And then there's the dead cap and all that kind of stuff. Right. A lot of guaranteed money. But here's the deal. He's 27. It's not like he's 37. He's 27. I know that running backs can fall off a cliff in the blink of an eye. We've seen it time and time again, and it's not like he hasn't been pretty much the focal point of the offense the last 2 years in New York. Daniel Jones 2 years ago, horrible. Last year, horrible, as well as the Tyrod Taylor and Tommy DeVito effect, right? Saquon Barkley was basically running into a brick wall every single time and was still able to put up some decent numbers. Not the numbers that we're used to seeing out of him, but we expect. You're going up against 8 in the box every single time. But, yeah, look, he touched the ball a lot last year, has touched the ball a lot the last 2 years. So there's the concern factor there. I totally get it. But here's the deal. He's coming here. He doesn't have to touch the ball 30 times a game. And I know we've joked around about, why would you pay big money for a running back that you're not going to hand the ball off to, because that's not what this team does. First of all, Kellen Moore actually does run the ball pretty well. That's, one of the biggest misnomers in sports is that Kellen Moore just throws the football a lot. He does run the ball a lot as well. Just 2 years ago when he was the offensive coordinator of the Cowboys, you saw the explosion of Tony Pollard, and you saw the 1-2 punch of Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. He does run the football. So I'm expecting Saquon Barkley to run the football. Now, because of A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Jalen Hurts' use of his legs, Saquon Barkley does not need to touch the ball 30 times a game like he pretty much was doing in New York. Now, you could say, well, then why are you paying him all that much money? Well, it now makes Jalen's life easier. And bottom line is, guys, that's still your biggest investment. $250 freaking million. That's your biggest investment. Think about how much easier Jalen Hurts' life is now. And I understand. There are the people that are not the biggest Jalen Hurts fans out there that go, all right, well, we paid him all this money. We made him a franchise quarterback. If anything, we should probably put more money into the defense and hope that our franchise quarterback can play above and beyond his contract like a Patrick Mahomes or like Tom Brady or like other franchise quarterbacks in the NFL. Yeah, you could do that. Or you also know the direction of the league is going, and it's offense, offense, offense. And you saw how Jalen Hurts played 2 years ago, and you hope that he can get back to that because last year wasn't so great. So he now has a legit running back who you can run this RPO offense with. Come the end of last year, I pointed this out after the Bills game, and I've said this a ton of times, Tom, with Ray. Bosa, after the 49ers game, does the whole, we put the blueprint out there. I believe the Bills put the blueprint out there. And it's because the Bills, whenever Jalen Hurts would do the RPO or PPO or PPA or whatever the hell you want to call it, right? Philadelphia Parking Authority, they just went right after Hurts. They did not respect the handoff to DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell. They thought that they could maybe get to Swift before he reached the second level. They could definitely get to Kenneth Gainwell. I mean, it's not like we saw Kenneth Gainwell putting up a bunch of numbers last year. And that way, if Hurts holds it, he's getting hit, right? Either holds it as a runner or holds it to throw it. He's getting hit. And if he does drop back to pass, there's not much time to throw the football. And if the offense isn't clicking like we saw the second half of the season, timing is important. You now actually have to respect Saquon Barkley. The other thing that's important is Jalen Hurts looked like he was slower last year. You now don't need to lean on him to carry the ball 10, 15 times a game. Design runs or not. And finally, I love the tush push as much as you guys do. Right? It's great. You know what? You don't think that after a while he's getting beat up a little bit? Maybe it's good to hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley on a 3rd and 1 instead of doing a tush push every single time. That helps Jalen Hurts out, not just from a weapon standpoint, but from a health standpoint, from the respect of the opposing team's defensive standpoint. There's a lot that goes into bringing Saquon Barkley that makes Jalen Hurts' life easier. And whether you want Jalen Hurts' life easier to be or not, I don't know why you wouldn't want his life to be easier. I don't know. I know people do well, he's getting paid all this money. I get it. Let him be a leader. That's the thing that he needs to work on most this offseason, right? That's what's been talked about. Let him focus on being a leader. His life is a lot easier on offense, and there's no excuses next year now. None. So Jalen Hurts' life gets easier with the Saquon Barkley move in many ways. Now, there was also another signing today. Matt Hennessy, Temple made Temple proud, signs a 1-year deal per Zach Berman. And I like it. It's a 1-year deal. It's a guy that was on IR last year. He came into the league as a center, moved over, I think it was tackle. I don't know if it was tackle or guard last year, but he was not the center for the Falcons last year.
He was guard.
Guard, thank you. So he was a guard last year, and now that sort of opens your eye to the right guard idea because right now you know your spots. You know it's Mailata left tackle, Landon Dickerson left guard, Cam Jurgens at center, Lane Johnson at right guard. You bring in Matt Hennessy, who could potentially start, or he could be a competition guy at camp. Who knows? We'll see what he is like after the injury. But I don't think they were in love with Tyler Steen. They didn't dress him in the final week of the regular season when you knew you were going to eventually sit your offensive lineman, which pretty dumb of Nick Sirianni, if I'm being honest with you guys. But that's okay. We'll try to move on from what happened.
I'm the dumbest coach in the world.
Can you hit that one more time?
I'm the dumbest coach in the world.
I can't go in the world, but it was pretty dumb to not dress all your linemen when you knew you were going to sit your linemen, and then eventually you had to put your vets back into the game.
Listen, Nick said it, man, not you.
It's unbelievable. That's the one thing that still scares me is that he's the head coach. I saw a great tweet. Somebody asked who's going to stop this offense, and somebody just quote tweeted it with Nick Sirianni's face. But Kellen Moore's the guy that's going to be doing the calls, so let's go Kellen Moore, all right? So I'm thrilled. Now, I want to ask you guys something. Before I ask the question, Tom, you're fired up today, even though you know it's a lot of money and there's concern to it?
Yeah, so there's two Toms inside of me. There's the football cap guy. There's the realist guy that is like, okay, we had a conversation literally yesterday where both you and I said the highest we're going is 3 years, $30 million.
Right.
You can find running backs pretty much everywhere when you look at Jonathan Taylor, second-round pick, Kenneth Walker, and then Aaron Jones gets a 1-year deal for $7 million this morning. So there's parts of me that are thinking like that. And then there's the Eagles fan in me that sees the Kelly Green edits with Saquon Barkley in the jersey, that sees, like you mentioned, Saquon Barkley's post himself with the many men and him changing up, him going after Tiki Barber.
Oh, we'll get to that, yeah.
And you mentioned it, how this basically is a 2-year deal. If you can get 2 years of B+A Saquon Barkley and he can stay healthy in this offense with a new offensive mind in Kellen Moore, and this guy stays healthy. And, oh, by the way, a really good run blocker in Saquon Barkley as well, which that's why they were going back and forth with Swift and Gainwell and Scott, because they didn't truly trust one more than the other when it came to run block and being able to do everything. So that's an important thing. You're paying a 3-down running back. You're not paying a guy that's on there for two plays. No, absolutely not. He's out there for all 3. You could argue that DeAndre Swift isn't a 3-down running back. He's not. He could not block. And that's why they were not going to bring him back, it seems. So I do have my worries. I absolutely do. And I hope this doesn't hold them back from making other moves on defense. But you mentioned it's the first day of free agency. But before it even starts, it's the first day of tampering. Right. It doesn't even matter right now. It hasn't actually started. And I go back to what I said yesterday.
you know Howie's already crunching the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of the things he
and
does
the cap
best.
is going up, and it's probably going to go up again in 2 years.
And he knows that.
Yes. So am I worried?
Thank you,
yes.
Taylor Swift.
Is there major risk involved with this? Absolutely. But if it works out and everything is put together right, the pieces are put together right, this could be a lethal Christian McCaffrey type move for the San Francisco 49ers.
And I know they didn't win a Super Bowl, but they got back to a Super Bowl.
And you have
they
a
were
better
in an NFC
quarterback.
Championship game last year. Right, exactly. It's just crazy that we have to root for the I root for love. We have to root for Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift to stay together.
Yeah, that's it,
because
man.
the cap went up because of Tay-Tay. I appreciate that. All right. And then Bryce Huff. I know people are worried about the money because he wasn't a full-time starter last year, but you pay him with the hopes that he becomes one, which is exactly what you do with Hassan Reddick. And then once he does explode, which you hope that he does, I know it's all speculation, but that's also what you have to do as a GM. You have to speculate, try to see into the future.
Project.
He straight up said that. Remember when he was asked about Hassan Reddick at the Combine press conference, he was like, yeah, you have to also think about the future, not just now. He's looking at this going, all right, I can get him on a deal that might be overpaid right now, but in a year or two, people are going to say, wow, that was a very, very good contract. Zach Wheeler, ring a bell? When he first signed with the Mets, he was overpaid.
Yep, big
after
concerns.
his injuries with the Mets. He ends up, it's the best contract, arguably, in baseball. Bryce Harper, arguably the best contract in baseball, because you have to think down the road, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I'll be completely honest. I think the Huff move is my favorite move from yesterday because it's just a classic Howie Roseman and Philadelphia Eagles move where they are good at one thing. They are the best at one thing. They're good at many things, but they're the best at one thing. And that is identifying talent in the NFL already in the trenches, at the D-line position and the offensive line position. You could argue drafting, maybe they're not the best when you look at the D-line. However, when it comes to recognizing ready-now talent, they did it with Javon Hargrave, I mentioned yesterday. They did it with Brandon Brooks. They did it with Hassan Reddick, as you mentioned. This is a classic Howie move. Yes, there's concerns because he did not play. He's not a three-down type guy. Last year, they're projecting him to be. I think this is a 25 years old, double-digit sacks last year. I really like that move from Howie. It gives them depth, and now what's the next domino at the end?
Right, so we'll see. Do they end up trading both? I mean,
or one.
That's
or none.
It could. Or none. I've heard that a lot. Also, what if they keep them both? I doubt it. I think they end up keeping one. I will be honest. I hope. Well, I've always been honest. I hope it's Hassan Reddick. I'm not the biggest Josh Sweat guy. So if I have Huff and Reddick on opposite sides, come on, man.
And that takes a little bit of pressure off Nolan Smith, too, who they're very excited about if you ask all the people reporting on it. But, yeah, it can't just be an...
They were also very excited for Quez Watkins in camp last year. Remember that? Nick Sirianni said he was the best. He was the standout at camp last year.
That's awesome, Nick. Thanks. It cannot just be Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, and Brandon Graham as your top three guys. And then a rookie. And I don't believe it's going to be. So I feel good about that move. And, man, I cannot wait for today. Can we get a signing today? We didn't get any yesterday.
We got one. We got Hennessy. That's breaking news, brother.
Awesome.
Hey, look, that could be your starting right guard. This is the city that loves linemen, man. It's Stoutland U.
Listen, no disrespect to Hennessy, but, I'd love a maybe CJ or something.
Dude, come on, man. It's the Hennessy memes just roll off the tongue at this point.
It's going to be one of the most bought jerseys in Philadelphia history.
Man.
Come on,
you know there's going to be somebody in the K-lot with a bottle of Hennessy in their left hand and pointing with their right hand to the back, and it's a Hennessy jersey.
100%.
You know that's happening. It may have already happened for all I know. All right. Also, 610-632-0975, the number to climb in. Your reaction to yesterday's first day of legal tampering. I'm all for the Saquon Barkley signing. I know it's much more than I thought it would be. I literally said that I probably wouldn't go above 12, and they went above 12, but screw it. I'm all fired up. Let's go. The other thing I want to ask you guys. So I'm glad that Tom's in today because you were with me last year when I did this topic, and I don't remember the exact date, but I could find it. It was the day before they traded for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. So the day before the Eagles traded for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson before the 2022 season, the year they go to the Super Bowl, right? They had a good offseason. And I asked the question. I said, do you feel comfortable calling in saying, my name is so-and-so, and I am happy that Howie Roseman is the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles? So, for example, I'm Andrew Salchunas, and I'm happy that Howie Roseman is the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles. right? I asked people to do that. And I think I only had 4 or 5 people willing to say it. Does it mean you only had 4 calls? No. I only had like 4 or 5 people willing to say it. I had people call in saying, I refuse to say it, or I'm not ready to say it, blah, 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 right? The next day, they traded for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who we were all thrilled for. Like, we loved that move. They barely gave up anything. So I asked the question again, and I said, can I get to 10? And I allowed a carryover from the previous day. And we still couldn't get to 10. Later that year, the Eagles are 8-0. And I'm at Game 3 of the NLDS. The Reese Hoskins bat spike, right? And during the, commercial in between innings, they're showing all the celebs that are at the game. And there's Nick Sirianni on the big screen. Yeah, Nick, we love you. He hates you. Right? And then they showed Howie. And there was a smattering of boos, not 45,000 strong, right? But a smattering of boos. I'm going, oh, hold on a second. Reese Hoskins just lit the roof on fire with that home run, and we're booing the GM of the team that's 8-0 right now. The team that won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I know that he was, not in our good graces a year or two ago, but really, he doesn't deserve a smattering of boos. And so I'm like, wow, there's people that will forever be unwilling to support Howie Roseman. I'm going to ask the question again today. Do you feel comfortable calling in? You don't have to give your last name if you don't want to do that. But say, I'm Andrew, or I'm whatever your name is, and I'm happy that Howie Roseman is the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles. Tom, can we get to 10 today? I'll keep the number the same the day after they signed Saquon Barkley.
I would love to say yes, but it's not happening, buddy.
Ow.
Come on.
Ow. Why? Because they shouldn't have paid him.
Because
Let me see what he does next.
Because it's Howie Roseman. That's it. Because I don't know if he'll ever be truly in everybody in Philadelphia's good graces. Because there's been too many ups and downs with Howie Roseman. Now there's been a lot more ups, way more ups. But we've still seen those downs. And it always comes down to, of course, as well, the people out there that believe that he's not a true football guy. The voice bothers people. The way he handled Wentz bothers people. The way he handled Dougie P bothers people.
It bothered me at the time, too. But then you've seen how it's played out with Wentz.
We hold a grudge here in Philadelphia.
Look, we talk about Nick Sirianni and his collapse, rightfully so. What did Doug do last year? Come on.
Oh, I agree. I'm with you.
The collapse was there, too. I don't understand how people were so unwilling to do it last year.
You know why I don't think we're going to get it yet? Because they still haven't addressed the linebacker position. Zach Bond is more of a depth guy.
Yeah, I haven't even brought him up, honestly, because he's a special teams guy. I saw one tweet that I'll read to you guys from somebody that covered the New Orleans Saints. Her name's Catherine Terrell. She said, Zach Bond is heading to the Eagles. The Saints never seem to know what to do with the 2020 third-round pick who carved out a role for himself on special teams. Defensively, they never committed to using him as a rusher, where he had some success last season. So it almost sounds like a Son Reddick thing where they were dropping back in coverage and things. No, he's a special teams guy. And I don't expect him to be your starting linebacker. If he is, then okay, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But when I saw him, they signed him, I was like, Christian Ellis might not, he's not here anymore.
It's the Hennessy move, honestly. It's a depth move. That's
right.
A different position, obviously. But yeah,
Hennessy could be your star. We don't know. He could end up starting at right guard.
He's played a lot more in center in his career now that I'm seeing on Twitter, but he can play guard. But
that's where he was at Temple, so coming over. But I wonder, unless they love Juergens at right guard, which I don't think so.
And look, it's Jeff Stoutland. So if anyone can fit, I'm sure Jeff Stoutland had some sort of input in this signing being made. Regardless, Zach Bond, Matt Hennessy, these are depth-type signings. However, the reason I believe that you're not going to get 10 today is because, yes, we're all excited about Saquon Barkley, Bryce Huff, potential there. We still don't have a starting linebacker that we're comfortable with, and we still don't have a starting safety that we're comfortable with.
It's been one day.
It is. Now, but today is when you're asking. Now, an hour from now, if CJ signs and Patrick Queen signs, which is not going to happen, they're going to sign both, but you get what I'm saying. If we get even one of those positions, you might get more. But I still have my doubts that we're going to get it from people out there.
Well, there might be a safety that they're looking at. There was a report in the NFL Network about a safety that's available. I'll tell you who that is next. Would love to hear from you guys. 610-632-0975. Oh, you got news. Oh, wait, no. Not with the Eagles. Marcus Mariota to the Commanders.
I just saw it.
He's $6 million.
1 year, $6 million to go to the Commanders. Marcus Mariota.
Commanders were busy yesterday. Josh Harris was working.
Former Eagles legend.
Yeah, former
Marcus
Eagles
Mariota.
legend. Speaking of, I forgot to even get to this. The other reason why you should be thankful for Howie Roseman is just knowing when to move on from a guy if they don't think they got something out of him. Like Carson Wentz, right? Like they said, all right, we got to get out of this. And they did. They took the cap hit and everything. I like Kirk Cousins, the person. I like Kirk Cousins, the fantasy quarterback. Kirk Cousins, if he ever wins a Super Bowl, maybe I'll walk down Broad Street barefoot. I don't ever see it happening. Which means the Atlanta Falcons, who gave him $100 million guaranteed money yesterday, this coming off of his $90 million guaranteed that he got from the Vikings. The Atlanta Falcons are one of the worst organizations I've ever seen. They finally decided we need a quarterback, right? They decided to draft Kyle Pitts instead of getting a quarterback, and then they went with Spencer Ritter or whatever. He sucked. He was just so bad. And then they go, now, we got our savior, Kirk Cousins. He'll be all right. Don't get me wrong. He's going to throw for 4,000 yards. He'll have a statistically good season. The Falcons might win that division because that division's terrible. But if you're the Atlanta Falcons, like, what are you doing? Thank you, Howie Roseman. I'm Andrew Salchunas, and I'm happy that Howie Roseman's the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles. You got something? You seem like you got something.
No, sorry. I was just going to say one
excited.
playoff win, and he's 35 years old coming off a torn ACL.
35. And they gave
One
him
playoff win in his
$100 million
life.
guaranteed. $180 million contract, 100 of which is guaranteed. What? What are we doing? I mean, what are the Falcons? Not that I care. It's incredible. All right, 2 open lines. Can you say the words, whatever your name is, am happy that Howie Roseman is the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles? Your reaction to the Saquon Barkley move yesterday. And also, coming up next, there is a safety that we should keep an eye on. That was being talked about on NFL Network earlier this morning. We'll tell you who that is next right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
from the Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It is 10:50 on the Midday Show. 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas, celebrating the first day of legal tampering yesterday, where the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley for a lot of money. A lot of money. A little concerning. But, man, I'm putting my fan cap on and saying, go Birds, damn it. I loved it. So yesterday, Tommy, if you remember, Mike from Delran called in. One of the great listeners of the station, one of the great callers of the station, great comedian now in the area, right? And if you remember, he was against it. He's like, why would I pay a running back a lot of money just to not give him the ball and blah, blah. The news happens, and I don't think it took 5 minutes for him to text me. Pre-ordering the new Madden, LOL. And then he said, I talked myself into it. Only took 5 minutes. Anybody's excited. I'm going to get to a couple calls that I know are concerned because of the money and how you can find running backs at much lesser deals. And if you look at the teams, I've done this myself. I've looked at the teams that have won Super Bowls over the last couple of years. And the running backs have not been the high-paid running backs. They haven't been. And if I'm to be real with you, I did that to tell people, stop wanting all the top running backs in the world, right? Pacheco's obviously won back-to-back years. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was on that team back-to-back years on a rookie contract. The last, real big-name running back that was a free agent that won was Leonard Fournette with Tampa, but he was signing 1 year, $2 million deals. It's not – he didn't get what Saquon Barkley got, right? He was signing 1 year deal after 1 year deal, eventually signed a 2-year deal. So I think he ended up playing 4 years in Tampa. But it was a lot of 1 year deals, not vet minimum, but he wasn't getting paid that much money for a former top pick in an NFL draft. And then all the other guys, the Rams, when they won, it was guys on rookie deals. And what Tom Brady did with the collective of running backs that he had, James White, back in the day, Kevin Falk, right? There's a bunch of guys that weren't getting paid a lot of money. The last high-paid running back was Marshawn Lynch that won a Super Bowl. So that was, 2014? That was a long time ago.
Yeah, almost a decade.
Long time ago. So I get it. Now, is part of this the Eagles are always trying to be ahead of the curve, and they go, now teams aren't defending the run as much, so let's get Saquon Barkley in here, and he's going to go up against your little linebackers and this offensive line that we have, and we're going to be a tough team to beat. I mean, look, the Detroit Lions did get to the NFC Championship game last year.
Obviously, the San Francisco 49ers as well. Well, Christian McCaffrey, you could argue, generational type back, but still, that is a team that has been to the NFC Championship game 2 years in a row now with Christian McCaffrey making a lot of money. Yeah. The Lions not only paid David Montgomery, they drafted a running back in the first round.
Yeah, they did.
So, because I kind of had that argument with myself. I looked at it and I was like, you look at the teams that were in Final Four last year. You have the Baltimore Ravens, who had just a plethora of guys.
Right.
And because J.K. Dobbins goes down, and then, of course, Isaiah Pacheco, and then I was like, oh, wait, if you look at the other side, the NFC, you do. You have Jahmyr Gibbs
backs, yeah.
and David Montgomery, and then Christian McCaffrey. So I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe the tides are turning a bit. I saw something on Twitter where maybe this isn't the best draft for running backs, so that's a big reason why there's some.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Bijan Robinson. There's no top 10 guy that we're
Gibbs even. Yeah.
Right, exactly. There's not going to be two top 20 running backs that go.
Look at us. We're talking. Everybody in the Delaware Valley is talking themselves into it more and more.
I'm not. The money's a lot.
Yes,
it is, and it's a concern. But part of me is just going to try to forget it and go, man, this offense, good luck stopping it. And I know it was stopped last year, but I think Brian Johnson was a horrible offensive coordinator, which the league will tell you that because he's not an OC. He's now a special assistant to an offensive coordinator. And Nick Sirianni is now the head coach. He's not the even though I know he's trying to get his fingers on it, but if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm going to go, hey, Nick, you see all this? Kick rocks.
Well, and it comes down to no one cares how much money you're making if you're performing. Did we ever complain about Zach Wheeler's contract? Did we ever complain about Hassan Reddick's contract? No. If you're performing, if Saquon Barkley...
Now, football's different because baseball, you could pay everybody $1 billion, whereas football,
Sure.
there's the cap.
Did we ever complain about Jordan Mailata's contract or anything like
No.
that? Or did anyone complain about A.J. Brown's contract last year? We had complaints about A.J. Brown in some of the situation. I don't think anyone was complaining about the contract.
No, absolutely
If Saquon goes out there and has 1,500 scrimmage yards and 12 touchdowns, now, as long as they're not ignoring the defense because of this move,
Right.
that is a big key.
Which I don't think that they will be. They
I agree.
can't. They can't,
No.
right? Like they.
And Howie knows that.
Let's say you trade one of the two, right? We kind of did this exercise yesterday. You trade one of the two. So you need a new edge rusher. You need 2 new linebackers. Bradbury needs to not be on this team next year. Unless there's a resurgence and they see something in medical or they bring him to camp or whatever. But, he can't be on this team. So 4. You're already 4 guys. Sidney Brown's hurt. So we're already talking 5 starters that need to be replaced, not because of talent. Right, I want to replace Reed Blankenship. I'm saying there's 5 guys that you need to replace because you're probably going to trade one of them. 2 others have walked. Fletcher Cox retired. Sidney Brown, and then Bradbury because of talent, right? Or because of just necessity to move on from him because he looks like he can't play in the NFL anymore. That's 5 or 6 guys that you actually need to replace.
Yeah, and I think the fear with some Eagles fans out there, and I'll be honest, even a little bit myself, and you mentioned it is day 1 yesterday, now on day 2. The fear is that they had a number that they were willing to spend on certain positions, on linebacker, on safety, and because of the Saquon Barkley signing, which I don't think we still know the cap yet, technically. We know the numbers, but I don't think we know the cap hit yet. I think the worry for some Eagles fans out there, again, including myself a bit, is, hey, are they going to now sign a lesser linebacker or a lesser safety because they had to spend that money on Saquon? Would they have signed Xavier McKinney yesterday if they hadn't have signed Saquon Barkley? That's part of my worry.
Right.
But again, it's very early on. We could have a
I
CJ
saw
GJ signing.
Diana Rossini said that they were close.
Yes, very
to getting
close.
McKinney, and then the Packers went a little bit above and beyond with the money, and that's why he goes to Green Bay, and he got paid a lot.
Yeah, he's making
of money.
$18 million. I'm not even saying
He
that's
got
the
paid
best
a
thing
lot
to do,
of money. So now the next question is, can you get maybe a veteran safety for less money? You saw what Byard was to get from Chicago. Now, I think Byard is washed, and I thought he made business decisions in the playoff game last year. But there's another 30-year-old safety that's available, and earlier today on the NFL Network, they talked about the Eagles potentially being in on this player.
If you look at the secondary, that's a spot where they really want to flip the page and really regroup at the cornerback spot. They moved on from Avonte Maddox. It's still up in the air about the future of James Bradbury. They have Darius Slay there, but also adding corners. They're going to do that through the draft specifically. It's a spot that they're looking for. But then also in the secondary, it's the safety position. But we all are watching that safety spot and how deep it is in terms of potential free agents that could land anywhere across the board because there's so many options. That man right there, Justin Simmons, you could think could be one that the Eagles are targeting. Remember, played for Vic Fangio when he was the head coach in Denver, one of the best safeties out there in football since he entered the league. Nobody has more interceptions than Justin Simmons. We'll see if the price could be right for the Philadelphia Eagles, but that is a player that they're looking for, and they do get Zach Bone coming in from the Saints. The linebacker position has always been one we've always followed in Philadelphia about how they view that spots, particularly in the middle of the defense. That's one they're looking to rebuild as well. So a lot of things they're trying to do with Vic Fangio on this defense, but they started getting some of them done today, but it looks like they're not done.
So they mentioned the name Justin Simmons, who once he got released by Denver, we all kind of thought, oh, wow, that makes sense here. Now, the age 30 is always a scary number, right? But I wonder if you could get him, maybe not 2 for 15, but 2 for 17. And I'm not going to pretend like I'm some cap guy. I don't know what his value is going to be at the age of 30. He's played a lot of years in the NFL now, right? But if you can get him in here and you couple him with somebody else, maybe you draft a safety, which that would be still a nice idea.
Love that.
Or you get another veteran and you wait till Sidney Brown comes back and you hope that he can be something for you. But the Eagles aren't done yet, and they're already talking about Justin Simmons. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's name's been brought up by Derrick Gunn. They're going to get somebody. They didn't pack up shop. Something to mention, by the way, Josh Sweat on Instagram pinned a comment saying, "I will miss you all." Now, does that mean he knows he's already on the move? We will let you know. All right, I promise I'm going to get to the phones now. It's high-spirited start to the show. We got one open line. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. Coming up on the show today, Jeff McLane. He joins us every Tuesday. He'll be coming up at 11:30 to talk about the move yesterday, signing Saquon Barkley, everything else the Eagles did, and what else the Eagles could do. And, I needed a football guy today. So I got the coach, Herm Edwards, coming on at 1 o'clock. I just need to hear his excitement about Saquon. If there's anybody that makes you want to run through a wall, it's Herm Edwards. So he'll be joining us at 1 o'clock. Let's go to Mark in Boston. What's up, Mark?
Hey, what's up, guys?
How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. I'm actually probably in minority. I'm not really a fan of this signing because they, like you just said, they have so many needs. They need a new secondary. Like they need literally like a out of the box brand new secondary. That's 4 players, 4 new starters. They need 3 new linebackers. They need defensive line top shelf starters. They need guards. They need to rebuild the roster, except for the offense. The offense is in good shape.
Well, all right. So let's talk about the offense is in good shape. So the conversation's the defense, right? So you bring in Bryce Huff, who's going to be one of your edge guys. You have to hope that Jordan Davis takes another step forward, which he showed the first half of the season that he did, and then he kind of fell off a little bit. Jalen Carter's going to be out there. Milton Williams is going to be out there, a guy that's now entering his 4th or 5th year of his career. And then, Darius Slay was still a solid corner. It's who's on the other side.
33. He's 33 years old.
He still had a solid year last year. I know.
He need to get younger.
And they have been. They have been in the draft the last couple of years. Now, can one of these young guys step up? We talk about youth movement. There are young players on this roster that they still need their opportunity.
Yeah, they do, but again, there's not enough flagship players on the roster that are young, that are entering their prime on defense. Yeah, offense, we're in good shape. We've already established.
Oh, you got another draft coming up, which is part of the youth movement. You're gonna sign. They're not done. They're gonna sign, I would say, 2 more starters defensively.
To me,
it's gonna be a safety. It's gonna be a linebacker. They're gonna sign 2 more starters.
To me, it's about supply and demand. What is it easier to find, running back or a flagship safety that you can rely on year after year?
Well, what if you could do both?
You're not going to be able to do both. Look how much money they just spent at the running back. Do you know how much depth there is at running back?
They tried also getting Xavier McKinney. It's just the Packers kept climbing up and up and up. They tried getting him. They were close to getting him. By all reports, they were there at the 1-yard line.
They were, but now,
if Chauncey Gardner-Johnson comes here for probably decent money, are you going to be happy about that?
I'm going to be happier than what they had, but I'm still going to be worried about, what's going to happen next year if somebody gets hurt. I'm nervous about the secondary.
That's any team.
I know. Secondary is bad. Look at the middle of the defense. And the reason why.
But here's the thing, Mark. They know that, man, right? They know that they saw a historic collapse and they saw historically bad performances by the linebackers. And I appreciate the call, brother. I understand the concern. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to if you're concerned, you have every right to be. I'm concerned. I'm not going to let my excitement be ruined by my concern about the money that's being put into Saquon Barkley. They already tried getting Xavier McKinney. It's just the Packers kept going up and up and up. So they're going to get another starting safety. And what if somebody gets hurt? That's any team. If anybody's left tackle, cornerback, linebacker, if anybody gets hurt, it happens all the teams struggle from it. They're not the first team that is top 22 heavy. Right, it happens all the time. The 49ers were top 22 heavy last year. They didn't have much depth. The Rams were top 22 heavy a couple years ago. They won a Super Bowl. It happens.
Yeah, I battle myself with the discussion. It comes down to, because you're correct. Are they relying too much potentially? And we will see what happens with linebacker and with safety. Are they relying a bit too much on the bounce backs of Reed Blankenship, of Nakobe Dean, of Jordan Davis? And, oh, by the way, we can say that, yes, they are going to add in the draft, which they will. We know how they operate, and they don't always do things how we'd like. So I think we'd love for them to draft corner safety first, too. Would it shock you at all if they went O-lineman and tight end?
No, absolutely.
Or even tight, because, back when they drafted Dallas Goedert, no one expected that.
Yep, and Goddard's at the age where Ertz was when they drafted Goddard.
But because of this, and because of the signing with Saquon Barkley, part of me is thinking that they're shifting the philosophy of their organization a little bit, where they realize that they need to change things up somewhat. How much they'll do it, we shall see. But I understand having concerns. Let's let this thing play out first, before we overreact too much.
Look, let's say if Mark's still listening, right? They don't add a safety, a corner, or a linebacker. Let's revisit this conversation 2 weeks before the season starts, or during training camp, right? When we're looking at who's the guy that might get cut or something like that, right? Right now, it's day one, or today's day 2 of legal tampering. They got an explosive running back, a guy that could be a game-changing running back on an offense that's already stacked. And they did try getting a playmaking safety. They just didn't want to get to the money that the Packers got to. Instead, they might get a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Or is it out of the question that the Eagles do the final year of the rookie deal for a safety?
Not at all. We've seen it before.
Maybe instead of doing it with the running back, they do it with a linebacker. A guy that's might only be here for one more year, but the second you tweak your defense a little bit, you're back to being a Super Bowl contender. And again, if you win a Super Bowl, nobody's complaining again.
And Mark mentioned the money. We still don't know what the cap hit is. When everybody saw that Jalen Hurts contract, and I get it, it's a 5-year deal, we were all, oh, wow, how much money are they going to spend the first couple years? He's not making big-time money until 3 years after that contract was signed. So, it's tough for me to – I'm more worried about, the length of the deal and because it's a running back. The money I'm not too concerned with because we all know it. Howie Roseman is a wizard when it comes to messing. It wouldn't shock me at all if it's a $6 million cap hit this year for Saquon Barkley, and it's just backloaded, and then they restructure. So the money I'm not necessarily worried about this year when it comes to free agency. It's the other thing. So that's one thing that I don't think we should be too concerned about right now.
No, just let this play out. He's not even signed.
Legally.
He's not even signed. Let's go to Luke in Philly. What's up, Luke? Hello.
Yo.
What's up, Luke? How you doing?
I love Howie Roseman. I believe he's a nice man, and he keeps everyone. No GM does what he does, personally.
All right, so we got one. All right, we're 9 away, and it's only 11:06.
Yeah, I also did want to point out, I believe everyone on the show is sleeping on the Packers a little bit. They're the youngest team in the NFL, and they've only gotten better, and they washed out.
You listen to the right show?
I thought, yeah.
Yeah, I know.
At the end, right?
We've been talking Packers a lot on this show. Ray, who's normally the producer, he's Jordan Love's biggest fan in the Philadelphia area. He literally plays the Love Train when we talk about Jordan Love, the song from the OJs.
Yeah, that's who I'm worried about them more than anyone. Really.
Yeah, you're young football. Now their defense is trash, so they have to fix that. Don't let a couple of games in the playoffs fool you. Their defense is horrible. They fired the defensive coordinator after making it to the second round of the playoffs, but they're a good football team. Jordan Love he's exciting.
Yeah, and they just did get Xavier McKinney, so and they're the youngest team. So that's all I really wanted to say. I love Saquon. I love the Bryce Huff, and I think the young defense is going to step up this year. Honestly.
Look, I hope so, man. I appreciate the call, Luke. Yeah, I hope so because they need to. The young players that will be here need to. Yeah, I mean, look, the Packers are good football.
Yeah, we didn't mention the Packers there.
Yeah. McKinney, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones now he goes to the Vikings. Actually, I saw this morning. I don't know what the Vikings are doing. Sam Darnold.
I don't think they know what they're doing, honestly.
Sam Darnold. Now, I ripped the Falcons for getting Kirk Cousins. But if you're the Vikings, hey, Justin Jefferson, I know you're coming up on a deal soon. Sam Darnold excite you?
Yeah, that's it wouldn't shock me. I'm waiting for that Justin Jefferson request to trade tweet from Adam Schefter. Cannot wait for that.
Just, maybe he could come here. Maybe let's get another guy.
Yeah, why not?
I'll play corner for the Eagles. I don't have to get paid much. That's all.
Devontae Smith, your wide receiver 3 behind A.J. Brown and Justin Jefferson. How's that sound?
Let's get crazy. Let's make it happen. All right. So Jeff McLane's going to be joining us coming up at 11:30, and I can't wait to get Jeff's thought on this. Now, Jeff is a journalist and not a fan. Okay? I'm making that clear. He is a journalist and not a fan. He's always ripping the team. Except when he writes things nice, and I found it really funny. Tom, because I have Jeff on every single week, so I like Jeff, right? Jeff was the first one to report Fletcher Cox leaning toward retirement on this show, months ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And Fletcher Cox hates Jeff. Why would Fletcher Cox tell Jeff that? First off, I don't know if there is actual hatred from Fletcher Cox to Jeff McLane, but that doesn't mean, like, he could have talked to other people.
People around.
And when Fletcher Cox retired, the first person I thought of was Jeff McLane. Like, not that he's a guy that does victory tours, but if I was Jeff McLane, I'd be like, hey, screw you guys. Like, you guys all ripped me. I told you. Like, here I am. So the reason why I'm warning you that he's a journalist and not a fan, I don't know what his thoughts are on the Barkley signing. He might think it's not good. And, typical Jeff hating on the team. He's not a fan. So I, myself, am telling you that I think the contract was a bit much, but I'm allowing my excitement and fandom to overcome football cap guy, right? And I look at the idea of this offense just being unstoppable, at least I hope. And so I'm all for the move, right? And also other reasons. Like, it makes Jalen Hurts' life a lot easier, which my quarterback could be more comfortable. That's great. I know some quarterbacks play with lesser weapons. If my quarterback's more comfortable with better weapons, and that means they're winning games, sounds good to me. I don't need to make a challenge if you don't need to make a challenge. But we'll see what Jeff McLane has to say about that coming up next. We have one open line, 610-632-0975. He comes on at 11:30, so we have time for some of your calls before Jeff. Also, coming up next, I would love to tell you how New York is handling the news from yesterday. I have some laughable audio for you, and Reddit threads are just always a great place to be. I'll tell you how New York's handling the Saquon Barkley news next, right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Busy day for the Birds. I'm Tom Alvord, and this update is brought to you
11:20 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas, 11 o'clock hour, brought to us by Golden Nugget Jewelers. That's where Philly gets engaged. Jeff McLane of the Inquirer, Inquirer.com, will be joining us in about 10 minutes to talk about the Saquon signing yesterday, Bryce Huff, all the rumors surrounding all the other players that have been linked to the Eagles, Justin Simmons, C.J. Gardner-Johnson at the safety position, because everyone that is worried about the Saquon move thinks that the Eagles are done. The Eagles are continuously being linked to other players. There's more and more buzz about how Josh Sweat could be traded today. I read you his Instagram posts where he said, "I'll miss you all." So there's a chance it could happen during the show, so you do not want to turn the dial because, I mean, Josh Sweat, by all reports, even though I'm not the biggest Josh Sweat guy, apparently they're going to get a decent return, more of a return for Sweat than Reddick. Now, a couple of reasons why. He's younger, maybe the upside thing, and he might not cost as much as what Hassan Reddick could cost you. So the Eagles could get a decent return on Sweat. It could be draft compensation, and then they could flip that for anything, or they could use it and continue the youth movement. Now, before I get back to the phones, I told you that New York is not necessarily handling this very well. So last week, before it was over the weekend, or I guess it was last week because I don't think he works on the weekend. But last week, Tiki Barber, when the reports already started coming out that Saquon could come to Philly, and I thought it was asinine, right? Like when you first saw Tom, Saquon Barkley potentially the Eagles, like what was your initial reaction?
That's dumb. That's not happening.
Exactly. I was like, no shot in hell this happens. And that's why I keep on pinching myself to make sure I'm not dreaming. So Tiki goes on this rant on his show in New York talking about how, if you leave and go to Philadelphia, you'll ruin your Giants legacy. And Tiki Barber, did play his entire career in New York and all-time, I think, not just leading rusher, but maybe overall yards from scrimmage. He was a good running back, right? Annoying as hell, good running back, fumbled the ball a lot, but he's a good running back, right? They didn't win with him. They won right after him. But he talked about how Saquon went to Philadelphia. It would tarnish his legacy in New York. Well, the move happened while he was on the air with his co-host, Evan Roberts. Take a listen to how they reacted.
Okay, here it is from Schefter. Saquon Barkley and the Eagles have a 3-year, $37.75 million contract. It could be worth up to $46.75 million.
And Saquon has already taken to Twitter himself to say thank you to everyone who's shown me love and support over the past 6 years. Forever grateful. Excited for the next chapter. Blue heart emoji. Peace.
Okay, right. Blue heart emoji. I'm looking at it.
He's dead to us now.
Yeah, say it.
He's dead to us.
Because he won't say it.
You're dead to us, Saquon.
He's long dead to me. Enjoy. By the way, Philly, enjoy the 9 games he'll play next year.
That's funny. Tiki goes the he's dead to me thing, which he's getting ripped for, but let's face it, if that happened reverse, people be saying it. I mean, do I need to remind you of Jason Worth? People didn't really handle that all too well.
Even Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Right, yeah.
Well,
he took shots at us, right?
But not right away.
So Tiki Barber goes the you're dead to me route, which, look, we would be doing the same thing, so I'm not totally ripping him for it.
He said it with a bit of a smirk, too. It wasn't complete.
Oh, whether he did or whether it was smirk or not, whether he's dead serious. Like, we would not handle this situation well. But the whole 9 games thing, I know the clip went longer. Somebody called it, because I think that's Evan Roberts who said, enjoy the 9 games, Philly. I think their producer called him out and said, wait, but you wanted him back. And so he goes from, I want him back to, well, enjoy the 9 games you get out of him. So that clip goes viral, and Saquon Barkley sees it on social media. To which Saquon responds with, LOL, yup, you're the prime example of loyalty to a team. I got the deal I wanted, secured more guaranteed money, which wasn't given to me before, so fans are going to hate me for that, so be it. But I never turned my back on my teammates and always had theirs. Tiki Barber, you've been a hater since I got to New York, and all the dead to me talk. Don't smile in my face when you see me, which that's great, actually. Because maybe Tiki tries to do this whole it was just for show, man. It was just for show, right? But the power of radio. You can turn people against you in a heartbeat. So, obviously pro Saquon in this situation. And he's right. He got more guaranteed money. The Giants had every opportunity to re-sign him. Every opportunity. He did all these press conferences of saying he wanted to be a Giant for life. Now, you say that to be in the good graces of the fans and everything. Like, let's be honest. Like, Bryce Harper's not the only player in Philadelphia that panders to the crowd. Athletes do it all the time. The Giants had every right to pay their face of their organization, and they didn't do it. And the talk, running backs don't get paid anymore. The Eagles basically said, that's not true. We're going to pay him.
There's rumors they didn't even offer him a contract, the Giants.
Right, so what are you going to do, Tiki? All right, so you shouldn't have gone to Philly. You should have gone to Houston. Well, he got more money than any other team. So Saquon Barkley, come on down. That's great. Now, Giants fans are on Reddit a bit more nastier. This one guy, Notorious NYG, Giant for life, my ass, bleep this guy. Somebody responds to him when this toolbag tries to get on Good Morning New York or whatever stupid show he wanted for his media career. I look forward to not watching. Paul 1023, yep, he didn't give a bleep about being a Giant for life. He literally only cared about money. He's absolutely dead to me now. Soup Landry, if he actually got a bag, I would understand, but he got $13 million a year after we offered him ... $13 million a year. Well, like you said, there's reports that he didn't even get offered a contract, and $13 million a year with a Super Bowl contender versus $13 million a year with a team that's going to basically get him killed because Daniel Jones, their quarterback. And then one guy says the boos are going to be very loud. I thought Philadelphia was the only city that booed. What's all about that?
I thought we occupy that stadium anyway.
Yeah,
let's be honest.
That's a good point. There won't be any Giants fans there. All right, so we'll go back to the phones. Jeff McLane joins us momentarily. Let's go to Steven in Lebanon. What's up, Steve?
Hey, guys. What's up?
What's up, dude?
I'm Steven, and I am extremely happy that Howie Roseman is our general manager.
That's two. We got two already.
How about that? Listen, if you wanted to stop global warming today and you wanted to negotiate with Mother Nature, send Howie Roseman. He'll get it done.
He'll get it done. You're right.
Very much so. Very much so. So I'm very happy about the Saquon signing. Tiki got torched. Get that Tiki torch. He got torched. On social media by Saquon. I'm glad the young man finally stood up for himself. With the Giants. Nothing to be mad about. Look, you didn't want to pay him, we did. And what the Giants couldn't do in 3 years, we did it in 3 hours. So last but not least, I know Mariota's going to the Commanders, big deal. But what do you think about this? What do you think if the Eagles give a draft pick or two, like, fourth or fifth or something, for Justin Fields and have him develop under Jalen Hurts? The Bears don't want him. There's nobody to take him. Of course, there's not a starting position for him in the league right now, but the young man needs to develop. God forbid Hurts goes down this year. You still have somebody with Hurts' skill set. Just a theory, and I know you guys don't like hypotheticals.
No, but here's the thing. It's not hypothetical when it's been talked about a little bit. So Mike Lombardi, I ripped him for it the other day because he said it on a podcast, and I said that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. And then after that, James Palmer put out a tweet yesterday that Daniel Jeremiah from the NFL Network said that if the price drops dramatically, he was wondering if the Eagles could trade for Justin Fields. Now, here's the deal, Steve. I hated when the Eagles drafted Jalen Hurts when they had Carson Wentz because I thought it was a distraction and maybe too much pressure on Wentz. I'm going to keep the same energy. I don't want a guy with starting experience who, let's tick back the clock a little bit. People were intrigued by coming out of the draft here in Philadelphia if he fell. I don't need to put that added pressure on Jalen Hurts coming off of last year.
Okay, well, I can understand that. So you give me Patrick Queen and CJGJ and do the rest in the draft, and I'm a happy man. And Philadelphia, just remember this, okay? Before you want to bag on Howie Roseman ever again, he is still the only general manager in the history of our franchise that's given us a Super Bowl. Take that to the bank.
Yeah, and got him back to another one. Thanks for the call, Steven. Yeah, like the Justin Fields thing. I remember there was talk about Eagles fans, because this was before Jalen Hurts was the quarterback that he became 2 years ago. There was debate about whether or not the Eagles should have drafted Justin Fields. And I didn't like it when Wentz was here. I'm going to keep the same energy. I don't want to do it with Hurts here. And I understand it's a cheap backup option because he's still in the rookie deal. And, yeah, he's very athletic and he's better than Marcus Mariota. But, I can't sit here and tell you, like, that I wouldn't be worried about that, especially coming off of a year where we're talking about, potential leadership issues. And I don't know. I'm not really for it. I did see a tweet from Adam Kaplan, who's been covering the league for a long time. He said, keep an eye on Easton Stick as the backup for Jalen Hurts. So, I know that's not going to excite anybody.
It's with the Chargers last year with Moore, right?
Yes. Yeah, so that makes sense. We're trying to get a hold of Jeff McLane. He, maybe something's going on right now. I'll shoot him a text, try to find. Did you text him? All right, I'll shoot him a text to see if he's good to go. Let's go to Chris in Jenkintown. What's up, Chris?
Hey, man. How you doing, Bob?
Hey, Chris. What's up, brother?
Hey, Andrew.
Chris, you're breaking up. We'll put you on hold. We'll try to get your line cleared up. Let's go to Rel in Jersey. What's up, Rel?
Andrew, what's going on, baby?
How you doing, brother?
All right, man. Hey, real quick one. I want to touch on. I want to talk about Saquon, but I want to talk about Fields for just a split second.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what we got to lose by bringing him in here for a day 3 pick. If Jalen Hurts is this guy y'all say he is, I don't see why it would be an issue. I
Said the same thing about Wentz, and he fell apart. He melted.
All right, well, I think Wentz is obviously a different cut of player than what everyone acclaims.
You know Jalen Hurts? Have you talked to him?
No, I'm going off of what everyone else says. I'm going off.
Yeah, I hear the same thing. Everything about he's a great leader and all that kind of stuff, right? And all he cares about is football. But you're testing it. That's the one thing. Like, I don't need to test it. I don't need to test it.
You don't got to push your main guy. You don't want to push your guy.
I think he's gonna be pushed regardless. Like he hears how he took a step back last year. He understands the doubt all across the league.
But if you know your job, you get a little, I don't want to say complacent, but you get comfortable when you know it's your job, right?
Nah, I don't think so. I think, again, he's built different, right? We hear that all the time. I wouldn't do it, man. I wouldn't even tempt it.
And then my next question after that, just last one on Fields. If the objective is to build a better football team, why wouldn't you want better football?
Because that's not what I mean. That's also not what I'm not thinking backup quarterback right now. You know what I mean? I'm not.
Okay, I'll parlay that into my Saquon point. So anybody that thinks that this Saquon contract is excessive is insane. To me, this is an absolute deal, and I'm going to compound that with 2 points. My first point is, when do you not want to elevate the level of your football team? I think with Saquon, you are knocking on the door of the bowl every year. If you with Saquon on your roster, when do you not pay for that?
No, I hear you, but there's then the obvious concern of whether or not, are they going to be able to pay other positions of desperate need, right? Everybody's worried about the defense. Okay. I don't blame anybody for being worried about the defense. Thanks for the call, Rel. I hate to go, but I got Jeff on the line. That's an obvious concern. It really is. All right, let's go to the Comcast Business Hotline from the Inquirer, Inquirer.com, the great Jeff McLane. Jeff, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
Hey, Andrew.
All right, so you just heard our caller, Rel. He's like, why wouldn't you try to make your positions better? I think there's the obvious concerns that the money allocated to Saquon Barkley might not be allocated elsewhere. So let me just ask you right away, are you surprised that the Eagles did this yesterday with Saquon Barkley?
I mean, if you asked me like a week ago or, whenever Howie Roseman's been in charge of personnel, I would say I was a little surprised. And then I kind of dug into it a little bit more and found out, the reasoning behind it. And, I'm not saying that excuses the amount that was invested into it, but it's not like he hasn't done this before. I mean, he paid LaShawn McCoy a lot of money back when, far more in terms of like salary cap percentage-wise to that position. When on his second contract, they would have expended a high draft pick on Christian McCaffrey had he been available to them at number 14 in the 2016 draft. They would have probably drafted Bijan Robinson if he had dropped in the latter part of the first round last season. So it's not like there isn't precedent for this, and precedent being that the Eagles see a 3-down running back in Saquon Barkley, and if they have a 3-down caliber guy like him and someone who, obviously when he's at his best is pretty darn good and pretty darn explosive, they'll make the move. And in this case, the reason why I was a little surprised that the running back market went the way it did early in free agency, but there really isn't a lot of running back strength and depth in this upcoming draft. And then you had a lot of available talent out there, And when you have that, it prevents certain free agents from getting like top dollar. So It wasn't like Barkley got like a ridiculous amount. I think he's now the fourth highest paid running back in terms of average yearly salary. And 4 of those 5 guys, if you're including, I think it was Nick Chubb, who's just below him, they signed those deals more than 2-3 years ago. So it's not like what Saquon is getting at 12.26 per year. Now we got to see the particulars of the deal to really kind of dig into it and see what is what. But it's not, and especially with the 13.6% increase in the salary cap, it's not an extravagant amount of money that's being devoted to the position.
So once the excitement wears off of the name, the biggest concern that I'm getting from Eagles fans so far is, okay, well, what are they going to be able to do next now that they put this money into Saquon Barkley? And obviously linebacker is always a concern and safety is always a concern because of what we saw last year. So I'll ask you, what is next, Jeff? Will this signing of Saquon Barkley hamper the Eagles from being able to make the other moves that fans want to see?
No, I don't think so. I mean, they've already spent a fair amount on an edge rusher in Bryce Huff. And they're out there shopping for safety right now. I don't think like Patrick Queen is the type of caliber of linebacker in terms of how much he's getting paid that they'll sign. I don't think Howie's philosophy on that position is going to change drastically. Maybe a little more they'll be willing to spend if the right guy is there for them. But yeah, they're not done addressing the defensive side of the ball. I mean, they have cap space, and they're going to clear some more additional cap space. I mean, it's almost guaranteed that one of the edge rushers, whether it's Hassan Reddick or Josh Sweat, is not going to be here next year. And there's other players. There's other ways for Howie to maneuver, and certainly the trade market is another one that he can explore. They know they're not done. They know they need to upgrade the defensive side of the ball. We're only second day of the tampering period.
Right, that's what I'm trying to calm down the Eagles fans that are worried today. Like, it's only day 2 and nothing's even official yet. This is still legal tampering period.
Yeah, exactly. So there's still a lot to be done. I think, typically the running back market isn't maybe 1 or 2 guys sign out of the gate, and then you see it settle down, and a few weeks after that, that's when you start signing guys, and maybe that has thrown some of the fans for a loop in how it's being handled. But it was just expedited because of what's available in free agency and what is not available in the draft.
Now, what are you expecting at the safety position? There's been a couple names that have been tagged to the Eagles. Obviously, there was the Xavier McKinney signing with Green Bay yesterday. It seems like they were close on McKinney. And now the other 2 names that keep on popping up is Justin Simmons and the tags that he's had with Vic Fangio back in the day, and also a return of Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Are these all possible landing spots for Philadelphia?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think they had interest in Xavier McKinney. Obviously, he's a good player. I just don't think they're going to pay $17 million a year for a safety, as good as he is. Again, Howie has what he's willing to spend on certain guys at certain positions, and certainly I think C.J. Gardner-Johnson will factor in is factoring into their thought process here. He's definitely someone that they've done work on. They are talking to his agent. There's a possibility that he could return. Justin Simmons is a little older, but has a much greater resume. He's not yet 30. I think he turns maybe 30 this year. So you have to be a little wary of that. But they have young safeties, so maybe in Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown, and maybe you just need a guy kind of just to hold it down for a year or 2. But it's all going to come down to how much he's getting on the open market. If the price is high, then I just don't see how he's doing that, and then maybe going for a little more cost-effective safety, and certainly CJ, I think, falls under that category.
You mentioned Blankenship and Sidney Brown. We obviously still have to see how the rest of this offseason plays out, not just free agency, but also trades and draft. But are there any young players on this roster currently, and not like Jalen Carter, but guys that aren't talked about as much that they're going to try to heavily depend on next season because they can't pay everybody top dollar?
Well, I kind of think they have to address the cornerback position because despite what Howie has said about James Bradbury, I just don't see how he's going to factor into the into their plans as the starting cornerback opposite Darius Slay. I think you can bring Slay back, but I just don't think you can bring both of them back, and that's because it's just how they performed and certainly what they lack in foot speed at this point in their careers. The cornerback market isn't great. My guess is that they'll do something there to bring in someone who's done it before, maybe someone you coming off an injury or someone that you project and it isn't going to cost a ridiculous amount of money. And then they used maybe one of those early first 1, 2, 3 draft picks to get someone that they can finally develop. That is a position that they have never done well drafting. And we see, I think you and I talked about this last week. You look at that position and you look at the teams that thrived well in the playoffs, specifically the Chiefs, and they have those top, sticky, kind of fast, strong outside cornerbacks, and I think that's something the Eagles will need. But that being said, they do have some young guys that they like. I just don't know if they project Kelly Ringo or Eli Ricks to be kind of the guys that can start for them over the next how many years.
All right, last thing before I let you go, and I wasn't going to bring this up until a couple of callers have called in about it because it's been brought up on a podcast. It's been brought up by somebody on the NFL Network. This all of a sudden discussion of Justin Fields coming here as a backup quarterback. Would the Eagles do that after what kind of went down with Wentz a couple years ago? I know Hurts is maybe has a different head on his shoulders, but would they really do that?
I mean, if they can afford it, and if it, because if Justin Fields is being viewed now as strictly a backup quarterback, then he's going to get backup quarterback dollars. Now it's going to be more than what Marcus Mariota, for instance, just signed for in Washington.
Right.
But again, don't rule anything out. If they feel like they can do something and maybe have him here, they like to stockpile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I do agree that. It may not be the best idea in terms of optics because he has, obviously started a lot in this league, and you got Jalen, who's coming off not his best season, and maybe you don't want to hurt his ego in that respect. I do feel like Hurts is built much tougher than Carson Wentz was, and would be able to take it to have that sort of guy in the building. But I also feel like, hey, he's only human.
Right.
That's got to be something that he's going to have to think about. The big question there is just whether Tanner McKee is ready to step into that number 2 role. I find it probably reach to have, whether it happens or not, I think it's a little bit of a reach. They have a new offensive coordinator coming in, bringing in his own new system. I know some of it will still be Nick Sirianni's call on how the scheme is run and what's in there in terms of plays. But a lot's going to change this offseason, and Tanner's still young. And all of a sudden he's got to learn now more a new offense, and is that the best scenario you want for the number 2 quarterback behind Jalen Hurts in case he does get hurt? So my guess is that they'll probably do something else. I'm not entirely sure it's Justin Fields. I haven't heard some of the reports you've mentioned. I've seen a few mentions of it.
It was more it wasn't a report. Like nobody's hearing anything. It's just more speculation, talk.
Yeah, right. My guess would be most likely not.
The day after signing Saquon and Bryce Huff, and we're linked to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, only in Philly do we talk about backup quarterbacks, Jeff. It's amazing. Yeah. Listen, man, I appreciate it. I know you're going to be really busy the rest of this week and pretty much from here on out. The NFL never sleeps. It's amazing. But I appreciate you, as always, for coming on.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
There he is, Jeff McLane on the Comcast Business Hotline from the Inquirer. Inquirer.com does a tremendous job. So interesting insight that this was in the plans for the Eagles for a while with the running back position, right? Because they realized they needed to make an improvement. They were in on Bijan Robinson. He just went early. I mean, the Falcons are just one of the dumbest organizations that I've ever seen. It's incredible. I talk about the city of Chicago being offensive to me as a sports fan. The Atlanta Falcons are pretty much there as well. But interesting stuff. And guys, for all of you freaking out that, but the defense, they're not done yet. It's just day 2 of legal tampering. We'll continue the conversation next, 610-632-0975. As the show goes on, we'll also kind of look around the NFL because it was crazy here in Philadelphia yesterday. It was a crazy day in the NFL. A lot of guys going all over the place. And there was a trade of a big running back, and this makes sense for the team he's going to. We'll tell you who that is next right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Howie's been busy. I'm Tom Atmore. This update is brought
Comcast Business Studios, powering possibilities. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com. Andrew Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
11:53 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas. Fired up today. I mean, yesterday was a ton of fun with the build-up to the Saquon signing. Today's the day of reaction for me because it happened during the best show ever. And it's just going to keep on going, guys. Like, they're not done yet. Jeff McLane, you just heard him. You've heard listen to the reporters. I know a lot of you are anti-media. Screw the media. They keep on reporting that the Eagles are linked to all these players. Like, it wasn't Saquon and Huff, and that's it. They're going to keep on going. Now, notice Jeff McLane slipped. He said Bryce Hall instead of Bryce Huff. I heard a lot of Josh Huff.
Did it yesterday. Former Eagle great.
Yeah, former Eagle great. Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff, Bryce Huff, Bryce Huff. Yeah, awesome. Now, the other thing that we're getting into, other than the reaction, I want to ask you guys, do you feel comfortable saying that you love Howie Roseman and that you appreciate him being the GM of the Eagles? We've got a couple already. We're at a better pace this year than we were 2 years ago, right? And 2 years ago, they go to the Super Bowl, so we're on a better pace now. Philly MVP Sports checks in on Twitter. He gives us a note. I know not everybody could call in. I'll get to the calls in a second. He says, I've always been down with Howie. Happy as hell he's our GM. Even when he drafted Jalen Wentz here, I still kept thinking Wentz injury-prone and Howie sees something. Him trading Wentz, getting a first-round pick was amazing. Look at the Broncos paying Wilson to pay for Steelers and not getting anything back. I believe the Wentz first-round pick got us A.J. Brown. Amazing. Now him signing Saquon, a great step forward. Howie was so pissed and upset in his press conference after the Super Bowl loss. I'm sure everyone in that building after last year's pissed off. But I think Howie sees I got to change things up. I don't sign running backs like this. And he did. He changed up drafting players from big colleges. He isn't done. He lives off of grabbing second-tier free agents who most of them he signed helped us on 2017 winning the Super Bowl and 2022 going back to the Super Bowl. He will kill it again in the draft. I believe he'll do a nice trade during draft day like he did last year with A.J. Brown and Swift. He doesn't like anything hurt the cap, and if it does, he gets out of it. It's literally insane what he does. Howie is the GOAT. By the way, he signed one of the best players in the NFL yesterday in Saquon Barkley. Anyone who doesn't like that is insane. It's day 2 of free agency. Relax. He will fix the defense. Go Birds. That could be Howie's burner account. I don't know, but I agree with a lot of the stuff that he said. Another tweet that I want to read to you. This was from yesterday, and I think it's important. So Bill checked in. He sent me a tweet right after the Saquon news. He said, honestly, besides the football reasons signing Saquon, this team and the fans both needed an emotional shot in the arm. And after a lot of stumbling and fumbling, our man Howie can glide a little again. And I think he's right with that. I mean, dude, we were down. And how couldn't we be? After going from 10-1 to 11-6. That was going to... I did a show a week ago or 2 weeks ago now talking about how I'm already worried about next year. And this is the Combine press conference, just hearing Nick Sirianni talk core values again. Hearing Sirianni speak already made me worried about next year because I was like, oh, damn. So if they start off like 2-4, we're going to have to talk about firing Nick Sirianni. Like, I was already in that mindset. Bill's spot on there. Like, this was a shot in the arm that we all needed, man. Football guy or not. Like, we needed it.
Yeah, Howie's peacocking a little bit here with this move, man. Now, look, we appreciate it, right? Because you needed a little bit of Eagles excitement. Yeah, we're going to get excited if whoever they draft in the first round, we'll talk ourselves into it. And, yeah, we'd get excited about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming here, Justin Simmons. This is a potentially, like, franchise-altering move here at some point. Like, a guy in Saquon Barkley, if he is in the right system, he's been so damn good with a miserable franchise. Look what he could be with this team. You're losing Kelsey, but that O-line's still one of the best in the league, and you still have probably the best offensive line coach in the league. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, now a new coordinator. Like, if this is done correctly, which I keep pointing to, and I feel pretty good about it because it's Kellen Moore calling the shots and not Nick Sirianni, this could be a franchise-altering move offensively for this team.
And for those who are concerned, it could be franchise-altering the other way, too.
It absolutely could.
It could be. Now, there was another running back move in the NFL, and this is a great move for Houston. The Cincinnati Bengals, who've been talking about releasing Joe Mixon in the last couple of years, they just traded him. Instead of letting him go to free agency, the Texans said, nah, bring him over here. Now, are there terms out there for what they trade to get him?
I don't believe so as of yet.
It probably can't be much.
No.
Right? If they were going to release him, it probably can't be much. Joe Mixon is still very talented, great running the football, also great out of the backfield. So they give C.J. Stroud another weapon, and that was the team that we were most worried about with the Saquon Barkley sweepstakes.
No terms yet. He's due a little over $5 million in 2024, and then he's a free agent.
I meant more the trade terms.
Yeah. No trade terms yet as of yet, but it can't be, a fourth or fifth round,
that's what I'm saying. For a guy that they were going to release, the Texans are probably like, hey, listen, we'll give you a fifth. Like, if you're going to release him, we don't want him to go to free agency, so we'll give you a pick. It's probably not that high. So
it could be a 6, honestly. As soon as I know, I'll let you know.
So that's a great move for the Houston Texans, and it's a good spot for Mixon to go to. I mean, not that he wasn't in a good spot in Cincinnati, but he goes to Houston, and that's a good move for them. And they didn't pay top dollar for a running back, and so they could probably go top dollar elsewhere. Let's go to, all right, we got Chris in Jenkintown back. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Andrew. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you, brother?
I'm doing fine. First of all, I want to mention that I'm very happy with Howie Roseman as a GM.
Okay, good.
You'd be lucky to have him anywhere else, believe me. I think for the most part he does a great job. Last year was a little rough where he let some guys go, like especially Steve Johnson hurt, letting him go.
They didn't let him go. They did. Chauncey, his agent. They tried backloading the contract. They wanted money up front. His agent did it. His agent peacocked on social media. I've said this a million times. I don't blame the Eagles for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson going to Detroit. I blame Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's representative.
Okay, fair enough. And I heard you and Tom talking a segment ago about because Reddick and Sweat, they're both free agents, correct?
No, they're both under contract for another year.
Oh, but you think one of them's going to walk this year?
No, they're trying to trade one, or they've allowed them to seek trades. They're going to try to trade one or the other, or both.
Am I out of my mind, or did I hear that Patrick Queen is a free agent?
He's a free agent.
Okay, what is wrong with him? He's not enough? You don't have enough money for him?
They might not have enough money for him. He might be the highest paid linebacker. I don't know. Like there are other linebackers that are out there that are going to get paid top dollar, but he's going to get paid. But it's unconditional for the Eagles to pay a running back, and they did pay a running back, right?
Well, correct. I'm just saying that if you look at the Super Bowl winners and stuff like that, they've had great rushers, and they've had great. See, they don't value the thing of it is that I've been a long time fan of Philly. Mm-hmm. They don't value the linebackers whatsoever.
Right.
And if they had a couple good ones, I mean, there'd be no stopping them because look at their offense now.
Right. And we'll see what they end up doing. Thanks for the call, Chris. Last year was abysmal, right? Zach Cunningham. Think about it. You and Kobe Dean, who you did draft. Right, I think we always say that they ignore running backs or linebackers. They have drafted linebackers. Just Nakobe Dean might not be it, and Davion Taylor was horrible. Didn't play football until college. Oh God, why did they draft him? Whatever. But 2 years ago, let's not act like they did sign Kazir White. Now is Kazir White Patrick Queen? No, but he's not that bottom of the barrel linebacker. And then TJ Edwards, they actually brought him back on a 1-year deal. They just weren't going to pay him the money that he got when he went to Chicago. Was that a mistake? Ultimately, yeah, because didn't he lead the league in tackles? He was up there. He was pretty damn good last year. I don't think they will ignore linebacker the way they did last year. I don't think they go after Patrick Queen.
Well, McLane said it himself. He doesn't see Patrick McQueen to Philly happen. And there's been no smoke. Like yes, it was unconventional for the Philadelphia Eagles to sign a running back. There was a ton of smoke around that Saquon Barkley stuff. Yeah. There's been no smoke with Patrick Queen with the Philadelphia Eagles. He might make like $90 million this year. And they wouldn't pay TJ Edwards $27 million or whatever he got. I doubt they pay Patrick Queen $90. Regardless, though, it needs to be an upgrade. You can't strictly rely on Nakobe Dean and then a bunch of practice squad. Like Cunningham and Morrow at the time, they were brought in around training camp, right? Both of them. Miles Jack they brought in. Like, that cannot happen again. You have to have some sort of plan.
And I'm sure they won't do that.
And it's not Zach Bond.
Right. Like Howie, there's no way Howie could watch the linebackers play last year and go, all right, we're going to try to do that, but just hopefully we hit on guys next year. Like, no, there's no way. But no, I don't think it's going to be Patrick Queen. I'm sorry to say. Look at this. My man deep in these streets, Black Gritty from blackgritty.com. What's up, BG?
What up, young Thundercat? Man, so, you're a dad. I'm a dad. I'm going to say, hey, you're a great dad by what you do and what you talk about your kid. You don't run around pounding your chest every day saying, I'm the best dad in the world, because that's your job.
Well, I have a mug that says world's best dad.
Yeah, and you keep it in your house. You don't walk around the streets running up and down.
I'm bringing it to you. Know what? I'm going to bring it tomorrow, and I'll have it on the YouTube feed.
Because that's what Howie does. Howie running around when I'm the greatest dad out there pounding his chest. Let everybody else sing your praise. I'm cool with Howie. I'm not in love with Howie. I said I found out that these Georgia dogs can hunt. You know what I mean? But what I do want to remind everybody about is it's rotisserie Roseman, okay? You see that chicken season, you can look at it through the glass. It's slow cooking, bro. Everybody out here with this flash in the pan. We need to get different. You know what you do? You get the most exciting guys first because everybody's biting at the apple. And then you go and get the other guys. There's 32 safeties and 32 cornerbacks. You let the market set a little bit. You pick and choose, get the guys you want. But Howie's going to go out there and get you defense. I don't understand. Do people not watch football? We got CJ DJ. That was like late in the season.
That was late in the season. Dude, the guy that had arguably the biggest play in the playoff run in 2017 was Patrick Robinson. They got him 2 weeks before the season started.
And so when people call up or they're tweeting, I'm like, shut up. Do you not know football? I'm too old now. I'm over getting excited about possibly getting Saquon. Once I got Saquon, then I'm going to go I pre-order Madden. You know what I'm saying? I get excited once I got it. But for right now, shut up and let rotisserie Roseman cook. It's a slow cook out here. You know what I'm saying? He's going to get – you think he don't know we need defense? You think you don't have a veteran coach over there picking and choosing and telling him who we need to go after, who we need to get? And then on top of that, once we draft guys, once we bring in a few more guys, shut up and wait. Because 2 weeks before the season starts, he's going to bring somebody else in here. Because that's how Howie does.
That's how he does. Now, before you go, you want to talk about Fields?
Oh, yeah. So, they went out there, got Mac Jones out there, and the Jaguar land behind Trevor Lawrence.
Who's afraid of Mac Jones?
They got the same winning percentage, the same interception, the same touchdown. They both losers, and they both think you ain't going to be starters in the league no more. My point is that you get a guy that's in the same similar vein, and this is a QB factory, as it were, and I think Jail's a big enough man to do it. I don't want to do it. I'm just saying I wouldn't be mad at it if it happened, and that's all I want to say. And one last thing. Howie season is on. It's just a slow rotisserie. My guys out here cooking. Let them cook. I talk to you guys.
You're the man, BG. Black Gritty, deep in these streets. Look, my concern with the Justin Fields thing is literally I just went through this a couple years ago. So why would I risk that? I understand that Jalen Hurts is #built different. All right? Jeff McLane said it himself. I say it. He's got a different head on his shoulders than Carson Wentz. But why risk it? It's just could be worth it. Might not be worth it. My first thought isn't backup quarterback right now. I mean what I said to Jeff McLane. Only in Philly, the day after we signed Saquon freaking Barkley, we talk backup.
Do we care about the backup?
Only in Philly. Nowhere else. Only in Philly. It's amazing. And it's because of what happened 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's the only reason why.
I'm not thinking about backup quarterback until May, until June. Like, why right now? And look, it's a little bit different because Fields, he's not on a rookie contract. I think he's on the last year of his deal, and then he'll be a free agent if he doesn't sign an extension.
Right.
And they're not going to sign a new extension if he gets traded. It's not going to happen. So I guess it's a little bit different because he's probably just here for 1 year. But you mentioned it. Like, there's already enough drama around this team. There's already been some talks, I guess you could say, about Hurts maybe
And his
needing to change
leadership,
the
yeah.
leadership a bit. I'm fine with Mariota. I'm fine with Jay. Like, you can find these backup quarterbacks that are fine. If Hurts is done long term, your
You're losing
season's over
anyway.
anyway.
Yeah,
Even if
and
Justin Fields is in here, your season's over.
Justin Fields, look, thank you, Justin Fields, for winning me a couple $100 in my fantasy league last year.
Nice.
I appreciate it, right? I watched that man trail in games constantly and not be able to come back because he can't throw the football well. Great with his legs. If he had a lead, good luck stopping him. He couldn't throw the football. And I know the weapons weren't the same, but DJ Moore isn't no slouch.
Cole Kmet's pretty good, too.
Yeah, like they have some weapons there. Justin Fields is a name.
It's not worth the hassle.
No,
it's not worth the trouble.
It's a name. People know him. He's an athletic freak. There were people that – that's the thing. There were people that wanted him here. They wanted to – because this was before Hurts exploded onto the scene. People wanted to draft him.
Dude, swear. Swear on anything.
All right.
At the time, I was saying to myself, they were up. I was like, Howie is going to draft Justin Fields right here. Like,
because we didn't know about Hurts.
No, and it was the quarterback factory. We're always looking to upgrade. I thought for sure he was going to be drafted at that moment. And not that I wanted it to happen. I just had that feeling.
You thought that they would.
It was a talking point around that time.
Yeah. It was talked about on these airwaves. It was a legitimate conversation.
Well, hey, listen, Kellen Moore also interviewed for that head coaching job when Sirianni got the head coaching job.
That's
and
true.
now he's here, so.
Yeah, hey, we'll see.
Guess you never know.
We got all kinds of battles. Speaking of Mac Jones, I saw an awesome tweet the other day. So when Mac Jones was reported that he was being traded to the Jags, some guy put out a tweet. It's terrible. Mac Jones here. As a player, I used to suit up for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but now I want you to get set up inside a Jacksonville Jaguar at Mac Jones's Jaguar and Land Rover in northeastern Florida. #1 pre-owned luxury vehicle dealership. Visit us today.
That's awesome.
It was an awesome tweet. Yeah, he stinks.
He's awful.
He's
Terrible.
really bad, and that's why the Patriots had their downfall. By the way, I mean that's exactly why they had their downfall. All right, 610-632-0975, the number to climb in. I'll continue to get to your phone calls coming up. I have an awesome story. I keep on saying, the reason why we should be thankful for Howie Roseman is because I look at what other teams have done around the league. I saw the Falcons give Kirk Cousins a ridiculous amount of money to nothing. Like, imagine that. At some point, you just got to realize that he's not going to win anything. Tom mentioned it earlier. One playoff win in his entire career. He's 35 years old and coming off of a major injury. Well, earlier this morning when I was walking into work, I had a conversation with a fan of a team that's probably jealous of what we got here in Philadelphia. So I'll tell you about that coming up next. Also, coming up at 1 o'clock, we'll be joined by Herm Edwards. Would love to get his thoughts on Saquon Barkley because he's a guy that makes you want to run through a wall. So if he's excited about this signing, then he'll make you feel even more excited than what you already are. If you're still worried about the signing, all right, we can talk about it, but I don't think they're done yet. Jeff McLane says they're not done yet. Every reporter says they're not done yet. So if there's any more rumors, we'll keep you posted. All coming up next right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Howie season is here. I'm sorry.
It is 12:19 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. I'm Andrew Salchunas. 12 o'clock hour brought to us by Serviced First Heating and Air Conditioning. Get 0% financing for 72 months and a $500 rebate when you purchase a complete heating and cooling system from Service First. Learn more at servicefirsthvac.com. I keep on going back to the people that are concerned about the Saquon Barkley signing. And once more, if I can put my excitement cap aside, because I am fired up today, right? Yesterday, I was just screaming in my house. Thank God Cooper was at daycare yesterday, so I was home alone for like an hour and a half. I was just screaming. Nonsense. Good thing. Good thing I was all by myself, right? Or maybe the neighbors are concerned, but I don't really know. Whatever. They know I'm weird. And if I put my excitement cap to the side, all right, you're paying a running back a lot of money, a position where you could probably get by without getting a top running back or a top running back at top dollar. And your defense was abysmal last year, and you need to fix the defense. I understand that. But even with all that being said, like, there are people that are, like, legitimately concerned still. It's only day 2. And that's what I keep on getting back to. Like, actually, we just passed 24 hours because legal tampering didn't begin until noon yesterday. It is 12:20. So it's been 24 hours and 20 minutes since legal tampering began. And the first move wasn't even Saquon. The first move was Bryce Huff. Like, the first thing they did was address the defense. There's still talks of Josh Sweat potentially being traded. Let's see what happened. Like, you know, do they get picks? Do they get a player? Do they get picks and a player? Do they get picks and then use those picks to draft a player or trade for another player? It's not just free agency. It's also trades. It's also the drafts. There's a million things the Eagles can do. And for those of you who are concerned, again, I get it. Saquon got a lot of money. But there's still cap space. Howie's a wizard. He'll find a way to make more cap space too. Do you really think, for those of you concerned, our first caller, Mark from Boston, first caller was like worried, losing sleep over it. Do you think they're done? Because they're not. That's my biggest thing that I'm trying to preach to those of you who are concerned, right? Or who are worried about the money that you're giving a 27-year-old running back. They're not done yet. They're linked to a bunch of players, and if you don't care about speculation and links and reports, if you don't care about that kind of stuff until the news actually comes out that they did indeed sign somebody or trade for somebody, I understand that. But guys, gals, do you really think Howie Roseman watched that defense last year and said, I'm going to add Saquon Barkley, we'll be fine? Like, no. He realizes that he needs to make changes and literally has to make changes because they don't have enough guys on the roster to play defense. Or, you know, unless you want to play like fourth string guys on your starting 11. It's not the case. So if you are still worried, do you really think that they're actually done? Or are you just kind of waiting for what's next right now? Would love to hear from you, 610-632-0975. And if you're excited for it, then celebrate with me because I'm ready to party, man. You know, it's going to be 70 freaking degrees the next 2 days. When Tom and I were walking out of here yesterday, I was saying this is a plan ahead week, right? Where you look at the weather, you go, oh, what am I going to do Wednesday? What am I going to grill? You know, I'm thinking of doing some yard work tomorrow, Tommy. You know,
already.
Why not? 70 degrees. Got to make the most of it, man. So this is a fun week. Eagles buzz and good weather. What's wrong with it? Other buzzes? Like, what's wrong with it? Come on, guys.
I was going to say, today's a good garage beer day to celebrate the Saquon.
Absolutely.
Or a good deck beer day.
Absolutely it is. So if you're not worried at all and you're just ready to celebrate, let's do it. 610-632-0975. Let's go to Justin in Fishtown. Justin, you're on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
What's up, brother?
Appreciate you guys taking my call first time on. I'm with you guys. I am extremely excited. I woke up excited. Anybody that knows football knows Saquon healthy is going to change this team. Him and Hurts in the backfield. You got A.J., Smith, Dallas, wide out. I think that scares any defense in the NFL. So I think everybody should be excited for this.
Yeah, like good luck stopping this offense, right? Like we said that last year. I understand it kind of fell apart a little bit, but I think Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni were just a horrible tandem. You bring in a guy that has a creative mindset, a guy that doesn't go away from the run, a guy that does play action, RPOs, all that, right? Like he's a new aged offense. Like last year was just stale and terrible, right? So couple the new mindset, the new plan offensively with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, Dallas Goedert, offensive line, Jalen Hurts. Like, come on.
Exactly. Saquon's never had an offensive line like this. There's no reason to be concerned. I think this offense is going to take off this year, and I think Saquon's going to excel. And I'm with you. There's no reason to be concerned about the defense. This organization knows what happened last year. They know that they need to get secondary. They need to pick up somebody, and they're going to do it. They're not just going to pick up Saquon and just say, all right, that's it.
No.
We're good for the rest of the year. They're going to, like you said, day two. They got a lot of time. We got the draft. They know what they're doing over there. I trust this organization. I think they're going to make some moves, and we're going to be a great football team. So there's no reason to be concerned right now.
Absolutely, Justin. And I said this earlier, and I appreciate the call, man. Thanks for calling in. I literally said this probably 2 segments ago to Tom. Why is it that you can only do the whole one-year deal thing with running back? Why is it that we can only do the final year of a rookie deal with running backs? Why can't we do that for a linebacker who's final year of his rookie deal? The Eagles could do that. It doesn't just have to be the running back plan.
And they've done it in the past. You mentioned Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and even like James Bradbury wasn't a trade, but that was the Giants were searching for a trade at the time. Then he ends up getting released. And look, Bradbury, we know how I feel about him now. But 2 years ago, Bradbury was an All-Pro. Bradbury was one of the best corners in the league, and obviously he falls off. But yeah, it's not like we have a GM who doesn't have a history of making moves late in an offseason.
Right.
So they still obviously need to address. We still have. Like you mentioned, we are 24 hours into legal tampering, not even free agency.
Legal tampering.
We still have all free agency. We have the draft, and we have leading up until training camp starts to get these
also,
deals done.
Remember how the DeAndre Swift trade worked out? It was because Howie read the writing on the walls. They get David Montgomery, they draft Jahmyr Gibbs, and it's like, well, hold on a second. What are you gonna do with this guy? It didn't take how, like, we were talking about it. I remember when the Lions drafted Gibbs, I'm like, oh, what are they doing? They already have Swift and, I guess Swift's got to go. Like, we were saying that as fans, right? Like, that's one thing. Howie probably sees the writing on the wall and goes, all right, so that guy is going to be available. We'll start making some phone calls. How do you know another linebacker might not get drafted? And you go, well, you already have that guy on his final. Let me make a phone call and offer a third or fourth round pick for next year.
The Arizona Cardinals, maybe they draft a safety. Buda Baker, I believe, on the last year of his deal.
Right.
Someone who's been linked for a while to the Eagles.
Like, it doesn't just have to be running backs that you make these moves of guys on final years of their deals. It could be any position all across the board, or those positions of need right now the Eagles do have. They do have legitimate needs. It's not done yet, guys. It's not even close to being done. We got 6 months until the season starts. Let's go to VT Ron in Myrtle Beach. What's up, Ronnie?
My man, Andrew, this is an exciting time.
Oh, hell yeah, it is, man.
It is, right, boys? It is. And look, signing Bart. Wait, before I get to this, Tiki Barber, he's a whiny UVA guy. All the UVA guys got their noses up in the air, and he's another whiny guy from UVA.
You tell him, Ron.
I'm telling you right now, whiny UVA guy. Wah, 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 wah. Too bad, Tiki. Too bad. You and your brother Rondé. So, listen, I got that out of my chest.
Good. I'm glad that you got that off your chest.
Oh, I had to. Hey, listen, I'm with Howie. I am. I think I can't agree with both of y'all. You know, the season is just starting here, 24 hours into it. And I think he will address the defense. He'll address the need.
Yeah.
He'll find a linebacker. He'll find a corner. He'll find a safety. You know, I don't know if Chauncey's coming or not, but I really think that give him a chance. The man's a wizard. He could do it. He'll do something on draft day, I'm sure. You got enough draft.
And here's the thing. How come we never talk? Like, I think everybody's just expecting Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to get big money, and he probably could. He's young. He's talented, but it's not like he stayed healthy the last 2 seasons, right? He got hurt with the Eagles. He got hurt last year. Like, what if that plays a role into his contract as well?
And Andrew, that's the way he plays, though. He's a little bit reckless, and that's the way he plays. But the other part of the Saquon thing is, and I'm sure you made mention to this, is that he's playing on natural grass. This is something. Don't overlook this. He's on natural grass.
Oh yeah.
And he's not playing on that terrible turf out, at MetLife.
Not just terrible turf. He doesn't have a terrible quarterback. He doesn't have a terrible offensive line.
And Andrew, and then I'll let other people get in. He's a 3-down back.
Yep.
He can receive the ball out of the backfield. He's going to open up the other receivers because you got to account for Saquon. And I'll tell you what, that's the biggest issue right there. And it gives, hopefully, with Cullen Moore, who likes to use his running backs not only as a running back, he also likes to use them as a receiving back out of the backfield. Man, the sky's the limit for this.
It absolutely is. And now, who do you double team? I appreciate the call, Ronnie. You might not be able to. A.J. Brown has 6 straight weeks of 125-plus yards, right? You start doubling him. Now, Devontae Smith is still available, but Goddard's hurt at the time, and their ground game wasn't good enough last year. And the offense starts slowing down. The offense got stale. The offense got predictable, which people were talking about. How can you predict what this offense is as long as the play calling is good?
Well, a big part of this, too, and you're absolutely correct, a big part of this that I'm kind of just starting to think about now, we all love the tush push here in Philadelphia. That is true.
Yep.
We love Jalen Hurts getting all these rushing touchdowns. Maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that Howie Roseman is looking at last season a bit, and he's saying, hey, maybe we should limit the amount of hits that Jalen Hurts is going to take.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And look, you're still going to use the tush push in certain situations, but bringing in a guy like Saquon Barkley, what does that do towards the goal line for the Philadelphia Eagles? Like, Saquon is a monster when it comes to short yardage carries. He can do a little bit of everything. I think maybe this is going to take a little bit. Now, it's not going to reflect on Jalen Hurts' stats, where maybe they come down a little bit, but if it's less hits that Jalen Hurts is taking, maybe his knee doesn't get banged up like it did last year if Saquon Barkley's here. So that's such a big thing. And also,
by the way, the tush push, it's great, right? Unstoppable. Every once in a while, 3rd and 1 play, instead of just getting 1 yard, maybe Saquon breaks one for 10.
Very possible.
Right? Like, it's possible. I have this complaint. There was a play last year. What's the Cowboys speed receiver? Turpin, right? Is that?
Yeah, Turpin.
So when the Eagles played the Cowboys, it was the second game they played them. It was a 3rd and 1. They ran a jet sweep, and Turpin got like 30. And I remember writing in a note, like, I forgot that you could gain like 30 yards on a
must be nice
3rd and 1. And that's not because I'm not anti-tush push, but they did that on midfield. If they didn't get it, they probably would have gone for it. Whereas the Eagles would have gotten a yard, which is great. But not that I hate this saying, but, the old adage in baseball, like, nothing kills a momentum more than a home run.
Than a homer, yeah.
Right? Which I think is one of the most asinine things I've ever heard.
It's momentum killer, that 3-run homer.
That's actually really stupid. Like, I hate it. There might be statistical evidence. I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Like, that's one of those things in sports where I go, I don't agree with that. That's stupid. But, like, constantly just getting 1 yard might not always be the best for momentum. Now, speaking of the tush push, our own Connor Thomas put out a tweet yesterday with the photo of Saquon Barkley and his thighs that are just bigger than your head.
That's all the tweet was, just Saquon's thighs, no context?
No, there was
Doesn't shock me.
context, but that would have been hilarious. He said the amount of bitching about the tush push this year with this dude pushing Hurts is going to be astronomical. And I'm glad a buddy of mine quote tweeted it. My man Nick Boyle, a legend in the Manayunk Roxborough area. A fireman, too, so we appreciate what he does. Quote tweets Connor. I couldn't help but agree with my man Nick. LOL, if he doesn't get every goal line carry, the contract ain't worth it. Totally true. The tush push, okay, use it as a weapon every once in a while. That's got to get limited this year.
Has to.
Like, A, for what you're saying, the health of Jalen Hurts. B, you're paying Saquon Barkley a lot of money. Give him the football.
And you know what the tush push is? It's a fantastic play. Last year, it was a lack of creativity where they strictly relied on the tush push. There was no creativity, as you mentioned. There's no motion. There's no potential for a big play.
Oh, my God. I hated that
Sometimes they would get 4 yards instead of 1 yard on the tush push, but that was the max that you were getting on that play. This year, it was such a stale and lazy offense last year that the tush push was the only thing good about it. This year, the tush push is just a little extra sprinkle, where, of course, you're going to be short yardage down with Saquon. And then, all right, if we really need a yard here, 4th and 1 in a huge momentum,
go for it.
We're going to go for it and get it. But, yes, we cannot nearly see as much as we saw the tush push the last 2 seasons. There's Saquon, he needs to be getting short yardage carries.
And, oh, by the way, who knows if the tush push is as good with Cam Jurgens?
It's very possible. It's not.
We could find out. All right, we have another person not sold on Saquon. Let's go to Tommy in New Jersey. What's up, Tommy?
How you doing? Yeah, I'm not too sold on Saquon right now. I mean, don't get me wrong. Saquon's a great back and everything. I just feel like the Giants put a little too much wear on him, and
it's a possibility.
I get a little nervous because he has ACL injuries and ankle injury, and now if we plan on letting Jalen Hurts sit back and Saquon take the ball, now what's the possibility of now what happens if he re-aggravates that something?
Well, so here, all right, so. One of my first thoughts when all this Saquon stuff was up, I was like, all right, what's wrong with him, right? Like, what's going on here? But here's the deal, Tommy. With this offense, he also doesn't need to carry them. He doesn't have to touch the ball 30 times a game. Like, you might actually be able to conserve him a little bit as the season goes on with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, right? Like, yeah, he has a lot of tread on the tires. He does. That's true. But when he comes here, he's a part of the offense, whereas New York, he was the offense.
True. I can respect that, too. But then I understand, too, because of our defense, we have our middle linebackers, they're kind of soft, and our safeties, we have really nothing.
It's not that they're soft. It's that they're non-existent. They don't have linebackers, but that means they have to sign guys and trade guys and draft guys. Like, they're going to do it. Howie is not done yet. There's already reports about safeties that they're linked to. They're linked to Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. They're linked to Justin Simmons, right? Like, they're not done yet.
And I understand it, but, with CJGJ, he's a little injury prone, too, as well, It's just a little unsettling, but I still have faith in Howie.
Tommy, it's been 24 hours and 36 minutes since legal tampering started, right? The season does not start for another 6 months. Look, I hear you. You have rightful concerns. I don't think you're wrong. Just take a deep breath. That's all I got to ask you is take a deep breath. All right, Tommy?
I'll take a deep one.
All right, you're the man, brother. I appreciate the call. We got to slow down here. All right? It's been 24 hours, 37 minutes, and 20 seconds since legal tampering started.
Need more. More.
Come on, guys. He wasn't going to make. By the way, I'll bring it up again. Saquon's not even officially signed, right? It doesn't happen until Wednesday when the new league year actually starts. So just slow your roll. Right? Slow your roll. They're not done yet. He's worried about Saquon, the tread on the tires, and all that kind of stuff. I don't. So I'm not saying you're wrong in thinking that. But I'll say it again, like I just said to Tommy, the caller. He doesn't have to touch the ball 30 times a game here. There might be a game where he does. But at the same time, the Eagles know the deal. The Eagles are also one of the smarter teams with trying to conserve people, right? With not getting too many hits and all. Look at training camp. They don't have one. They have let's come together and get to know each other, play cards. Or they don't have a legit training camp anymore. Saquon Barkley does not have to be the offense like he was in New York. And maybe, just maybe, with less touches, with less carries, with less touches out of the backfield. And I understand you don't want to pay him to do less, but if you can still have him playing at the high level that he can play at, especially come playoff time, which all of a sudden teams run the football in playoff time. We talked about it. You made the point. Look at the last 4 teams that were in the playoffs. They ran the football, man. It was Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. It was Isaiah Pacheco with the Chiefs. I say Lamar because Lamar himself runs the football, but Gus Edwards and everybody that's involved. Pacheco with the Chiefs. Montgomery and Gibbs with the Lions. And McCaffrey with the 49ers. They ran the football. Unless they were down big, they ran the football. They control the clock in the playoffs a lot different. That's big, having a legitimate back that you can trust in Saquon Barkley. The number to climb in is 610-632-0975. So coming up, we will be speaking with one of my favorite people in Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards will be joining the show at 1 o'clock. And look, I'll be honest, I don't know what his thoughts are on the signing. I'm hoping he's thrilled about it because if he's thrilled, then he's going to make you want to run through a wall. All right, he might want to suit up again playing for this Eagles team if he's in favor of it. So we'll talk to Herm coming at 1 o'clock. We'll get to more of your calls before Herm comes on. Also, I still have to give away a spot in Knockout. I haven't done that yet today. We have a pair of tickets to give away for the Sixers-Clippers game March 27th. And one of you will be able to play Knockout after the game. So I'll let you know how you could potentially win a spot in Knockout during the final hour of the show. So, you know, we still have a lot of fun in store for you. And, dude, this Justin Fields thing is heating up. Adam Schefter talking about Fields. I guess I'll have to tell you what he said next because, man, something I made fun of Mike Lombardi for is catching more and more heat as the days go on. I'll tell you what that is next right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Legal tampering has begun. I'm Tom Alborn.
Salchunas, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
It is 12:48 on the Midday Show, 97.5 The Fanatic. Coming up at 1 o'clock, Herm Edwards will be joining the show to react to the big news from yesterday, the Eagles signing Saquon Barkley, maybe overshadowed by their recent signing. Braden Mann comes back. Punter Braden Mann back to a 2-year deal. $4.2 million.
I'm just glad it's not Sip-Boss.
Dude, he was horrible.
Sip-Boss was, yeah.
He was horrible. And then Braden Mann actually wasn't bad.
Yeah, he was solid.
Yeah, he was their best player for you in the playoff game. I'm pretty sure, right?
Good signing. Howie season.
Yeah, well, welcome back. All right, before we get back to the phones, a couple of things. So, major news in the NFL is another signing. Another big running back gets signed. Derrick Henry goes to the Baltimore Ravens, which a few weeks ago, if you were listening, we were looking at the running backs available because the Eagles obviously needed to sign a running back. Whether it was bringing back DeAndre Swift or getting somebody else, they needed to sign a running back. And CBS Sports linked all these running backs, all these different teams, and the Eagles were linked to Barkley. Also, I think Austin Eckler was on there. DeAndre Swift and Zach Moss was another guy that they were linked to. One guy that wasn't linked to them that was available was Derrick Henry, and the only team he was really linked to, I think actually the Cowboys was on there, but he was also linked to the Ravens. And first thing I said was, oh, my God, he makes total sense to go to Baltimore. You know, imagine trying to load up the box when you got Derrick Henry, but then also Lamar Jackson. He can actually throw the football. Look at how much better he got last year with that. If he's got legs left, that's scary, right? Derrick Henry to Baltimore for the AFC. You wouldn't really have to worry about that until the big one, if you were able to get that far, and if they are able to get that far. But Derrick Henry to the Baltimore Ravens just makes total sense. Now, what I did not realize, I saw a tweet from Adam Schefter. The Ravens actually tried trading for him last year. If you're the Tennessee Titans, why wouldn't you have traded him last year? You were going nowhere. You were losing. You knew, I would guess, that you weren't going to bring him back. You fired your coach. Your quarterback situation's a mess. Your team's a mess. Like, why wouldn't they have traded him? I don't get when teams do that in all sports. Why did the Angels not trade Shohei Ohtani when they knew they weren't going to be able to keep him?
Because there are incompetent franchises everywhere in all of sports.
I just don't get it, man. Like, and it's not like the Titans were, competing for a playoff spot. My memory suits me.
And they had that. What's their backup? Tajay Sharp or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that was a guy that they seemed to like. I think they drafted him. It's not like you don't have anybody to replace him.
Even if they had nobody to replace him.
Yeah, sure.
Like you try to get anything you can get back if you know he's going to walk at free agency. I don't get it. So Derrick Henry goes to the Baltimore Ravens. So that's the biggest news that's happened so far today. I saw a tweet from Warren Sharp. He tweeted this out yesterday, but I just saw it on the timeline of the Kirk Cousins money through the years. Oh, my God. So 2012, he's got the standard rookie 4-year deal. He was drafted, third or fourth round? Because it was the same year as RG3.
I think it was second, wasn't it?
Second.
I thought it was.
Then he gets the $19.9 million fully guaranteed contract in 2016. 17, he gets $23.9 million fully guaranteed. 2018, that jumps up to $84 million fully guaranteed. Notice I'm saying fully guaranteed. 2020 was 66. 2022 was 35. And now he signs the contract. 4 years, $150 million, 100 of which is fully guaranteed. So in his career, if it ends after 2027, he will have made $411 million with the base salaries, 329 of which was fully guaranteed. And as you said earlier, Tommy, one playoff win in his 12-year career. One. Unbelievable.
It's a hell of an agent. That's what that is.
Yeah, dude. I don't.
I
don't get it.
I tweeted it out yesterday, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I personally, if I am running an NFL franchise and I know I'm not ready to win, I would so much rather trade a 4th-round pick for Justin Fields, if he potentially is, his market's not nearly as high as some think, sign Russell Wilson on a 1-year, $1 million contract, then give Baker Mayfield $100+ million or Kirk Cousins $100+ million. Like, maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. But if you... All 4 of those guys, they're different, but you're not winning a Super Bowl with any of them. That's obvious. So why are you giving $180 million to Kirk Cousins? What, fantasy stats?
Right, exactly. It's not doing anything for you. Fantasy stats doesn't bring you Lombardi trophies.
And they'll win games.
I said it earlier. I'll say it again. He is a good quarterback. He's just not somebody, as I said earlier, if he wins the Super Bowl, I'll walk down Broad Street barefoot. Like, he's just not a winner. Like, I don't want to put that tag on him, but has he won anything? No, he's won 1 playoff game in 12 years.
35 years old, coming off a torn Achilles.
That's why.
And it's not like he wasn't throwing a talent. T.J. Hawkinson, Justin Jefferson. Like, you had skill. Dalvin Cook, when he was good, you had skill position around him. It's not like he's doing that when it's Matt Stafford where he's got one guy he's throwing to and that's it.
And, oh, by the way, you know, the Vikings defense 2 years ago was abysmal, but it's not like the Vikings defense was always terrible when he was there. They just weren't winning games. Now, you sent me something from our old buddy Sal Pal. He was on the McAfee show saying Philly is still behind Nick Sirianni, but he's on the clock. And then he mentions that every head coach in the NFL is on the clock, but Sirianni definitely is. Well, I mean, to me, that's almost like a duh. Because if they underperform this year with what's been provided, yeah, I said earlier, Jalen Hurts has no excuses next year. Nick Sirianni has no excuses. Like, none. Unless, like, everybody's hurt.
What is underperforming? Like, would it shock me next year if they won 10 games and made the playoffs? No, absolutely not. Like, and then, like, didn't make the Super Bowl, but would they fire Sirianni? They would need to have a bad start to the season.
They'd have to have a bad start to the season, or it would have to play out not the same way as it did last year. Also, the stuff that comes out of the locker room, like, that was all in check the first 2 years and the first 11 weeks of this season. And then it just completely fell apart. And it's not just record. It's not just what they do in the playoffs. Like, if they win a playoff game but then lose the following week, it's also how everything's being talked about and said. What is Jalen Hurts' relationship with Nick Sirianni? Jeff McLane, who we had on earlier today, he said to me a couple of times that relationship needs to be nurtured a little bit. You know, who are they going to side with? The head coach or the $250 million quarterback? Like, you know, the $250 million quarterback. That's what they're going to end up doing. All right, Herm, in a couple minutes. Let's go to Zach in Bristol. What's up, Zach?
How we doing, guys?
What up, Zach?
So, first of all, I'm extremely excited for this offense. I mean, I think it's pretty much set aside from, you know, backup QB, maybe a slot guy, and maybe backup offensive lineman. But I have 2 quick questions for you guys about the defense, kind of opinion questions.
Mm-hmm.
My first one is I'm assuming you guys saw Josh Sweat's comment.
Yeah, we talked about it. You know, I'm going to miss you guys. It looks like he's going to get traded.
Yes. So my question for you guys was, what would you guys ideally want back for Josh Sweat?
It's going to be picks. I've read probably the same reports that you have. Apparently you can get more value in return than Hassan Reddick because of his age.
Right.
Josh Sweat has had a good career. I'm not the biggest Josh Sweat guy, so I don't want to, like, all of a sudden throw out these draft numbers, these rounds that overvalue him when I don't even think that highly of him. But I don't know what the rest of the league looks at him like. But I imagine a couple of picks. Is a 3 and a 5 too little when they were planning on moving on from him anyway?
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I saw something similar to the Montez Sweat trade. I don't think they're going to get that much. I think, like you said, it's more realistic that they get like a 3 and a 5 or a 3 and a 6.
Yeah, that's what first comes to my mind, right? When you ask me that, I say 3 and a 5.
So my second question, and I heard you say, obviously, you know, don't stress out. It's very early in free agency. It's still the
free agency hasn't even started yet.
Right. It's still the tampering period. But normally for, you know, specific players, you hear teams linked to them sooner. And I was curious as to, I mean, I have a pretty good idea, but once again, it's kind of an opinion question. I was wondering why you guys think that the Eagles haven't really been linked that much to either Patrick Queen or Devin White, who are the younger linebackers.
Because I don't think they still value that position as much, right? Now, we said the same thing about running back, and look at the splash they made with Saquon Barkley, but that's one splash that they made. Vic Fangio, I know he values linebackers, but he also values safeties probably more than linebacker, and so that's why you're hearing more safety names being linked to the Eagles. And you can only spend so much, right? Like, they're not going to be able to get Barkley and a top-tier safety and a top-tier linebacker after already paying Bryce Huff and paying Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Landon Dickerson got the big contract the other day. Thanks for the call, Zach. Like, you can only pay so many guys so much, right? Now, do I love Patrick Queen? Yeah, I do. He's a stud, right? And he's a linebacker. And let's face it, Baltimore and San Francisco and Detroit, these teams, and Kansas City did it via the draft, these teams have good linebacker play. Now, once more, Kansas City did it via the draft. And maybe the Eagles we'll focus more heavily on the draft in linebacker. All I know is, well, I don't know, but all I can imagine is that there's no way in hell that Howie Roseman goes, no, we're just going to go for other vet minimum linebackers and just hope that it's better this time. I can't believe that that's going to be what they end up doing. All right, we have a couple open lines. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. But as I said, there's a man that I can always turn to that can make me run through a wall. Now, I basically almost ran through a wall in my own house yesterday when the news dropped that the Eagles signed Saquon Barkley. But I need to hear from one of my favorite people at ESPN, the coach, Herm Edwards. Herm, how you doing today, man?
I am well. I think you, like a lot of Eagle fans, are excited about Saquon obviously coming to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do, let's forget about cap and all that kind of stuff, but money aside, Herm, Saquon Barkley's a beast.
Well, he is, and I think that adds another dimension to your offense, and it'll rear its head once we see what type of offense they actually run. And as good as he is as a runner, I think when you look at him, his numbers, but he carried the ball about 247 times last year for almost 1,000 yards. He had 41 yards in receptions. I think they got to use him, and I'm not trying to say I'm the offensive coordinator, but obviously use him more as a pass catcher. That'll take some wear and tear off him. He's 27, as we know. He's been injured somewhat. He misses games, but I just think this is a big piece to the offense to get him in the fold.
And how important is it for him in his career, not only to maybe get a little less wear and tear from running the football as much, but also the fact that he now comes to Philadelphia with a legitimate offensive line. The Giants have not had that. A quarterback, which the Giants did not have last year. I know that everybody fell in love with the Tommy DeVito story, right? But come on, it's a little bit different here. And also the threat that they can actually throw the football. You have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. You have legit weapons that defenses have to scheme against.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, this helps the offense tremendously. But here again, I mean, and their problems aren't solved yet when you think about the Eagles. I mean, they got to do something, obviously, on the other side of the ball. This is where they suffered last year. You saw it early. I saw it early. You did. They were going to run into some problems defensively. When you think about where they have fallen to defensively, they were the 30 almost the worst defense in football. So, with that being said, I think there's another piece offensively, but now it'll be interesting whether in free agency still, as well as the draft, how do they address the secondary? Obviously, I still think they need a third go-to wideout. Kelsey now is, he's retired, so he's a big piece of it. Being at the center spot, but defensively, they felt way off. This is a team that only had 43 sacks. They just struggled at times. The offense scored enough points, 25, but the defense gave up 25. So on that side of the ball, they have to do something.
Yeah, to your credit, I had you on. I've had you on a couple times, but the first time I had you on last season was after the loss of the San Francisco 49ers. And this was before the Cowboys game, and you pointed out the defense. You're like, just letting you guys know that the defense might struggle a little bit here, and you were spot on. So you're right. They absolutely have to. And there's names that keep on coming up here in Philadelphia that Eagles fans want to see. Patrick Queen, one of them, a stud linebacker in the NFL.
Yeah.
Herm, let me ask you. I know we saw the Final Four teams last year with great linebacker play. Why do you think it's changed a little bit in the NFL where a linebacker isn't as valued as it once was?
Well, because it's a passing league, right? And so, it's not a running league anymore. You need athletic linebackers that can play in pass coverage, along with stopping the run, but they have to be more athletic. The big, heavy hitting linebacker, the middle linebacker, he's become obsolete. You have to have guys that can run and play in space because of the way the formations are handled with now. They spread you out. I mean, they put you on islands, whether to run or to pass. And so that's kind of where it's at now in the NFL. When you think about it, you use, 5 defensive backs most of the time. That's your base defense now. It used to be, on third down. No, on first down. You're using 5 DBs. And then you have to have linebackers that can rush the quarterback. So when you bring them a part of your pressure package, not only can they blitz, but they got to be able to cover. And that's kind of been the Achilles heel for the Eagles.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned Jason Kelce and how much that changes at the center position, but also from a leadership standpoint, Herm, what does that mean to a locker room, losing not only Jason Kelce, but also Fletcher Cox, who's retiring after 12 years, two of the more vocal leaders inside the locker room? I mean, how important is it to try to find that next guy that can take control of what's going inside the locker room and not just necessarily on the field of play?
Yeah, well, that's very important. And, the quarterback has tremendous leadership skills, but you need some guys in the trenches as well, right? And you mentioned the 2 guys. And, look, Lane Johnson is 34 years old.
Yep.
So it's not like he's a young guy, So this offensive line slowly, all of a sudden, that's going to have to be rebuilt as well, going down the road here. So I just think, they'll find enough leadership there. I do believe that this is a good football team. We know that, they should, they'll have a chance to make the playoffs again next year. They were 4-2 in the division, which is a good thing. Dallas is Dallas. They were 5-1 in the division, obviously, and then won it. But I just think they still have some pieces here. They just have to do a better job, offensively. What are they going to be? What is it going to look like on offense? Because last year it was not good. When they got into some third and long situations, or even when they caught pressure, their out was to throw the fade.
Yeah.
They never attacked the middle of the field when they were pressured, and the run game was kind of back and forth. And Hurst got hurt. That didn't help him because he's a big part of the run game. But now you got Barkley. He's a difference maker, guys. I mean, he is a fantastic football player.
So when it comes to Hurts, now there's always pressure on the franchise quarterback. We know that. But how much does it grow now for multiple things? He has leadership skills, but there's already been reports that he needs to sort of work on them a little bit, especially now that some of these veterans are gone. But Herm, there can't be an excuse for him. I know people are gonna say, "Oh, it's another new offensive coordinator, it's another new system." But I'm sorry, when I see A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Saquon Barkley, a lot of money invested in an offensive line, I think excuses go out the window this year. No.
Well, he knows he has to play good, and he has to accept the leadership role even more now. With Kelce leaving, that's and as you mentioned, when these veteran leaves, when they leave, you have to take over, and it's his team. Look, it's his team.
Right.
He might have to be more vocal at times. That's not his personality, and he doesn't have to be vocal where people see it, but really just vocal in the locker room at times and during practice when he needs to say something. He's going to have to step up and do it and he knows it. This is his football team, but he needs some help. I mean, defensively, they can't keep playing the way they were playing last year. I mean, that ain't going to get it done. I mean, they got to play better, and I think they will do a good job. I mean, they'll find a way to get better, but it's a tough division. The Dallas Cowboys, they're the Dallas Cowboys. They're talented enough to always compete with the Eagles. There's no doubt about that. But Washington, obviously, new coach now. we'll see where they're headed. The Giants, there's a lot of work to be done there. I guess they like the quarterback. We'll see how that works out.
I don't know how what they see in them, but that's just me, Herm. All right, before I let you go, we talked a little about Kelsey and Cox and Lane Johnson, and we haven't even mentioned Brandon Graham, who's going into his final year, his 15th year.
Yeah.
How amazing is it for 4 guys like that, and 4 very talented players, could be Ring of Honor guys in Philadelphia, some could be going to Canton. What does it mean? Like, what's the testament to the Eagles organization that these guys stayed on one team? I mean, you don't really see that anymore in the NFL.
No, you don't. And they're pros. I mean, and look, they were on a team where they felt like, hey, we have this window of opportunity now to get to the big game. And players sense that. When you're a veteran, when you're in a good organization, and when you got a good football team, and you look at your team going, hey, man, we can make a 4-year run, doing this. I mean, we got a shot. And you look at them, this year it was a little bit, okay, 11-6, second in the division. Last year was 14-3, so they've had this run of playing pretty well, and so guys know that, I don't want to go anywhere else. So we got a chance to win a Super Bowl with this team. The guys know when they got a chance. The veteran knows. They've been around long enough to go, hey, we got a shot at this. When they don't think they got a shot, they take the money and they leave.
Yeah, that's a great point. Herm, listen, man, I always appreciate you coming on. We're fired up right now, and like I've been trying to warn people, because everybody's worried. What's next? The Eagles defense. Yes, you're right. But it's been 24 hours, 25 hours, and 10 minutes of legal tampering. Hasn't even been free agency yet. So we're fired up to see what's next for the Eagles.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They got a good crew of folks, and the fan base is fantastic. That's one thing about when you're an Eagle, boy. I tell you what, a marvelous fan base, and they should be excited. I mean, they got a heck of a football player.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Herm, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm sure I'll be bugging you up the road a little bit. All right.
Anytime, brother.
You're the man. There he is, Herm Edwards on the Comcast Business Hotline. The coach. I already see Ray Dunn tweeting in. He's listening, all fired up. Herm gets you fired up, man.
He absolutely does.
Sometimes you don't need coffee. Like, this is normally afternoon cup of coffee time. I'm good. Herm Edwards, he dropped a couple nails at the end of some sentences.
Yes, he did.
He's a football guy. That's what football guys do. All right? You say now at the end of your sentence, you're already enlisted into football guy territory.
Yeah, between Saquon Barkley, Herm Edwards, I'm pretty fired up as an Eagles fan right now. It's fair to say.
It's a good time. All right, we have another segment left to play. We'd love to hear from you guys. 610-632-0975. We're still waiting to see what's next for the Eagles, but there will be a what's next. All right? So if you are worried about the Saquon money and what that might mean for the defense, let's talk about it. Let's talk it out, okay? Because, I still see a couple callers on hold who are not at ease right now. Once more, it's been 25 hours, 11 minutes, and 50 seconds of legal tampering. Not even the new league year yet. So we'll continue the conversation. We'll talk it out. We'll keep on looking at what else is going around the NFL, because if you look around what's going around the NFL, my God, you should be happy that you're an Eagles fan right now. 610-632-0975. I'm Andrew Salchunas, the Midday Show right here, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Eagles upgrading. I'm Tom Gordon. This update is brought to you by Mattress Firm. Spread the word. You can score bonus savings on
Clock Hour brought to us by Ferguson HVAC Lyon Conklin. Attention HVAC contractors. For equipment, parts, and supplies for every heating and cooling job, visit one of Ferguson's counter locations in Ben Salem, King of Prussia, Pennsauken, or Westchester. Best show ever coming your way at 2 o'clock. Still no Tyrone. It is Bill Calarulo sitting in his chair. Ricky Patalka, they did a great job yesterday when the Saquon news came out. Before that, the Bryce Huff news. Tom and I were talking about how we just know something's going to drop probably after 2 o'clock today. But you know what, Tom? The more I think about it, I've been able to get basically 4 hours of programming out of Saquon today. If news drops after 2 o'clock, I got 4 hours of programming already in check. Sometimes you got to think second level, Tom. The show will be written tomorrow with whatever happens after 2 o'clock today.
You know what? That's a great point. How about this? How about a Josh Sweat rumor at like 1:40? Give us a good 10 minutes to kill the last 15 minutes of the show. What do you say, Howie?
All right, yeah, come on, Howie. Do us a little bit of a favor. Now, a couple of things before we get back to the phones. We have a couple open lines. You can climb in at 610-632-0975. It's been a busy day on the phones today, so now you got a chance to climb in. I want to play 2 bits of audio for you. But before I play that, I want to just go back to the idea of, trying to realize that we do have it good here with Howie Roseman and this organization. Right? I've talked about Kirk Cousins a few times today, getting the monster deal, which is just crazy. 35. Tom's talked about it a lot. Coming off of a major injury, $100 million guaranteed. 4 years, by the way. For a guy that's won one playoff game in his entire career, which is like, it's one thing if it's Brady. This guy's won one playoff game in his entire career. Amazing. So today, I was walking into the building, and we have a great janitor, Kev, who's been here for a long time. It's my man, Kev. And as I walk in, first thing I say to him is, Saquon! And he's all fired up, right? And he's like, yeah, and I like Huff, too. And as I'm, walking in the elevator, he goes, yeah, Andrew, do me a favor. Talk about how good Bryce Huff is, right? And I start, I think Huff's a good player. I'm trying to figure out what the angle is here. So he points to the one of the security guys that's there. He goes, really, talk about how good Bryce Huff is, because I'm sure some Jets fans would be upset. And I'm like, it sucks. But then my man, the security guy, said, well, I'm not a Jets fan. I'm a Raiders fan. And I'm like, oh, damn, that's even worse. Right? Like, the Jets are in a better spot because they at least have potentially Rodgers, right, if he's healthy and off the peyote. They're still trying. Except for last year. They literally tried last year once Rodgers got hurt, which is incredibly offensive to every member of that Jets defense that was playing their hearts out just to lose 17-10, right? Zach Wilson was horrible. But I almost wish he did say that he was a Jets fan, because you'd be in a better spot with the Jets than you would be with the Raiders. They signed Gardner Minshew, dude. Minshew Mania survives 2 years, $25 million. The money that's out there for quarterbacks. If you play quarterback, you're a rich man.
Unless you're Justin Fields, who's nobody seems to want you anymore.
All right, so we have 2 bits of audio for you. Let's start with that one then. So Adam Schefter on First Take earlier today. Man, I almost feel the need to apologize to Mike Lombardi, because I thought it was ridiculous. I played the clip from Jason Kelsey's Super Bowl speech when he said some clown Mike Lombardi. Because he comes on his podcast and says the Eagles should trade for Justin. Now, he said the Eagles should trade for Justin Fields and run 2 quarterback sets. Which, come on, man. Like,
you can still make fun of him.
That's a bit much. Come on, we're not doing that. Especially now that you have Saquon. Like, what do you? Now, that was before Saquon, I guess, in his defense, but that's not happening. But he said the Eagles should trade for Justin Fields. And then Daniel Jeremiah, who I respect a ton, was kind of threw out that question yesterday on the NFL Network that maybe the Eagles should trade for Justin Fields. Now, the Eagles aren't mentioned, I don't believe, in this clip, but Schefter kind of talks about Justin Fields in a different role.
Justin Fields was connected to Atlanta. Never happened. They went and signed Kirk Cousins. He was connected to Pittsburgh. They land Russell Wilson. He was connected to Las Vegas. They went with Gardner Minshew. So all the places that have come up in connection, to Justin Fields have looked to other places. What's amazing to me about this is that Justin Fields is due to make $2.7 million this upcoming season. So there are teams out there that would rather pay all these other quarterbacks than Justin Fields. And so now he's sitting there, and it doesn't look like there's a starting job out there at this particular moment. And so the teams that are looking at him would be looking at him as a backup. And would Chicago then get the value that it wants? And what does Chicago do about that? And the Bears will have to wait to see what opportunities arise. But it certainly doesn't seem right now like anything is imminent with Justin Fields.
So no mention of the Eagles, but that's now a third prominent person that covers the NFL that has talked about Fields as a backup, and the first two talked about specifically the Eagles, the backup to Jalen Hurts, because they need a backup quarterback now that Marcus Mariota's gone. We love the backup quarterback in Philadelphia. They signed Saquon Barkley for not less than 24 hours ago. We're talking backup quarterbacks in this city. It's unbelievable. Now, that is funny that Gardner Minshew got a 2-year, $25 million contract to potentially be the starting quarterback, and Justin Fields, who's getting paid $2 million, they weren't interested in. That's kind of weird to me.
When there's no other market, like you haven't heard any other teams being interested. And
Gardner Minshew.
What he did say there, Schefter, and like it was a little bit of a long clip, so I didn't include it, but he compared it a little bit, Adam Schefter did, to the Lamar Jackson situation last season, where all these teams were linked to Lamar Jackson, and none of them stepped up to the plate, and they ends up re-signing with the Baltimore Ravens. That's the key right there, okay? Look at how many teams...
But the Baltimore Ravens didn't have the first overall pick.
Sure, absolutely. But when it comes to the sense of how we value quarterbacks around the NFL, how other teams do, we're like Washington Commanders, Atlanta Falcons, some of these teams out there that were linked to Lamar Jackson, they had no interest in him whatsoever. How are teams like that not interested in Lamar Jackson, not even interested in Justin Fields potentially? Like, if you don't want him to be, if you're not in love with them, you don't want to sign him to the contract regardless, but, like, it's obvious he's not viewed all that highly around the league. Go throw a third-round pick and see what you can.
Try it. Like, I thought the Commanders last year were so dumb to not get Lamar Jackson.
Makes no sense.
Because you have weapons offensively. Their defense is pretty good, and they said, nah, we got Sam Howell.
And Lamar wins MVP. Like, there are some awfully run franchises.
Oh, God. It's crazy. Now, the other thing that I wanted to play for you, James Palmer, who you hear him on pretty regularly with the best show ever. He was on the NFL Network earlier today, and he was talking about the Eagles signing Saquon Barkley because there is a confusion of why now. Like, why do they do it when it's normally not what the Eagles do? James Palmer kind of explains.
Kind of out of the norm for Howie Roseman to go and spend this kind of money at the running back position. And you could look at it a couple different ways. Is this panicking after struggling offensively down the stretch last year after going to the Super Bowl and being a play away from a title a year before? Is this reaching because you feel like a window's now? Well, I kind of did some digging, and this is kind of what I've come up with, and maybe the more realistic answer to it is they see a generational type running back that was able to put up numbers running behind an offensive line that is nowhere near what the Philadelphia Eagles have, playing within an offense that is nowhere near from what the Eagles have, and they have the ability to go out there and be even maybe more dominant with him carrying the football and what comes in with Kellen Moore running this offense. My understanding is what they're trying to implement schematically in the play action game and how they're trying to put all that together, they need a 3-down back that can operate all of that. That is Saquon Barkley. That was not DeAndre Swift. That wasn't Miles Sanders before him. Barkley can fill that.
Who? Saquon Barkley, man. The guy that wasn't it the Balky reports? Steroids?
Kind of out of...
I think so, my bad. I think so, yes.
You know, the guy that got the steroids. Anyways, there was a reason why they think they can get more out of Saquon Barkley, which I completely agree with and have been saying. They also think that with the Kellen Moore new offense, that it might behoove them to have a 3-down running back and a guy that defenses actually have to respect, which is what I've talked about a lot. Like, I like DeAndre Swift. Don't get me wrong. But it got to the point where defenses, I don't think, respected DeAndre Swift as much. The Eagles, I don't know if they respected him enough because they didn't even play him all the time. And teams did not care about the RPO. They would just go right after Hurts. And if they handed off the ball to Swift, they thought they could stop him. And you saw that play out. Like, it's not like Swift was great in the second half of the season either, even though he wasn't used enough. Now defenses have to respect every aspect of this Eagles offense. Let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Ramin in West Philadelphia. What's up, Ramin?
How y'all doing, fellas?
How you doing, Ramin?
Hey, listen, I got a couple points, right? I heard what you said. Now, mind you, I know Saquon is a great player, right? A good player, right? But here's I didn't even think, right, we need to spend that money on Saquon, right? When I looked at our offense, like, you got to remember, we had one of the top offenses with Miles Sanders. And DeAndre Smith was better than, DeAndre Swift was better than, he's better than Miles Sanders. My thing was the other side of the ball, whereas though, listen, we keep saying, oh, we let Howie do his thing. It's been only 24 hours. No, we thought that last year. When Howie thought he outsmarted everybody by he letting go. Kazir White, T.J. Edwards, Marcus Epps, C.J.
Well, he wasn't going to bring back all. They were all free agents. He didn't release them.
But the thing was, you thought you was going to replace them with replacements that wasn't really built for what we was trying to do. That's why defense.
Well, look, if I'm Howie, and I'm not like defending him here, but all right, so Edwards was replaced by Nakobe Dean, a guy that you drafted, right? Marcus Epps was replaced by what was going to be Sidney Brown once he was available to play and all that kind of. And I'm not a big Reed Blankenship fan at all.
Yeah, me neither. Now, here's my thing. Now, listen, I'm not disputing. Like, I'm not saying the offense might be better, but damn, I would have felt great if we would have got. Let's stop getting these second-tier guys. Let's get, like, I would have felt great if we had got the kid from the Giants, the safety from the Giants. If we would have made that our number one priority due to the fact he was the number one cover safety in the league last year. I'll feel great if we go after a real linebacker. Let's stop getting these secondary linebackers, these linebackers that's 30 and all like that. Even a safety. Let's stop trying to get the safeties that's 30, right? Now, when I look at Kevin Byard, right, I believe Kevin Byard can still play, but I think the situation he was put in last year.
Nah, dude, I think he's washed, and I think he made business decisions at the end, and that, like, you can't have that. I appreciate the call, Ramin. Like, you can't have a guy that looks like he's making business decisions in a freaking playoff game, right? Now, look, Ramin's not wrong. I know whoever is concerned about Saquon. I've said this a million times. This is a show where we're all together, right? You're not wrong. I also have concerns about the money. It was more than I would have been willing to give up. But they're not done yet. Now, Ramin doesn't care about that. He would have rather have allocated the money to Saquon, to Xavier McKinney, and to a top linebacker. I get it. But you're not going to be able to do it to every position. You won't be able to. And you have to draft some guys. And this notion that they let all these guys go, they didn't let all those guys go. They weren't going to be able to afford Marcus Epps, T.J. Edwards. You guys like A.J. Brown? Had to pay him. You guys like Landon Dickerson? Had to pay him. Right? You're going to actually have to pay Jalen Carter down there. I know it's early on, but there's guys that everybody loves. Like, we can't pay everybody. There is a cap. And did anyone really think T.J. Edwards was going to go on and play the way he did in Chicago? I don't think so. I liked him. I really did. I remember saying that 2 years ago that it was a sneaky re-signing, bringing back T.J. Edwards on a one-year deal for very little money when they brought him back. He then got a big payday from Chicago, his hometown, by the way. Let's not forget that.
That was a big reason why I went there.
He went back to his hometown. Maybe if the Eagles upped it even more, but that's uncharacteristic of the Eagles. So they bring in a running back. It's going to make the entire offense's lives easier, Jalen Hurts' life easier. You just heard the James Palmer clip. There's a reason why they brought in Saquon Barkley. But you're right. The defense needs to add players. But let's not start being critical of Howie Roseman and the Eagles' plan of attack this offseason when it's 1:35 in day 2 of legal tampering. 25 hours and 35 minutes ago, legal tampering opened up. The new league year, the free agency period doesn't even start until Wednesday. So, we just got to take a collective deep breath. I understand the concerns. I understand what they still need to address. But we also had McLane on earlier today. They weren't going to give McKinney $17 million. Not because of Barkley. Because the Eagles weren't going to do that. And sometimes you just have to believe in what the Eagles are doing, whether you agree with it or not. But they're not done yet. Let's go to Chase in Westchester. What's up, Chase?
Hey, Andrew. Thank you for taking my call. I just wanted to make 3 points. I'll try and make them as quick as possible, starting off with Saquon. I think people are really starting to underestimate the necessity of Saquon here. I know a lot of the fan base wanted to re-sign Swift because that'd be a little bit more of a team-friendly deal, pinch a little bit of pennies there.
Mm-hmm.
But those same people were all upset last year when Gainwell was getting 41% of the snaps of the season to Swift only 59% of the snaps. And that's due to solely because of pass blocking.
Yep.
You want to take that toy of Gainwell out of Sirianni's hands, you go out and get a superstar running back like Saquon, who's also statistically the 6th best pass blocking back in the league.
Mm-hmm.
My next point is, if I'm Howie, I address safety in the free agency and address linebacker in the draft. You don't need to spend too much on Patrick Queen. I really like CJ. A lot of people think that those bridges might be burned. If that's the case, go after Justin Simmons. He had his first breakout season in Denver under Vic Fangio, so that's the perfect match made in heaven right there. Bring them back, reunite them too. My last point is, I don't know if you guys heard about him, but Texas A&M linebacker Edgerrin Cooper. I am infatuated with that dude. That dude plays with a sort of fire and aggressiveness. When he makes a tackle, man, he is up, swinging his arms, whacking himself in the helmet, man. When you have a sort of fire like that in the middle of your field, that can spark all the candles.
Especially in Philadelphia, he'd be a fan favorite immediately.
Oh yeah, man. That guy just like solely just like the way he plays and like the aggressiveness he plays with reminds me of Ray Lewis. I'm not going to say the talent's there.
Right.
That's absurd, but yeah, exactly. Just reminds me of that kind of like motivation he plays with.
All right, look, I love that call, Chase. I appreciate it, man. Look, I quick and to the point. He was prepared. That's
Beautiful.
Great. That's good work. That's good work. The Saquon thing's important from many avenues, and he's right. Like the pass blocking aspect of it's huge too, because that's why Kenneth Gainwell's on the field half the time.
Dude, I love the idea. And I don't know if this is necessarily the case, but like I think I link a lot of it is to Sirianni's infatuation with Kenny Gainwell. Where like we should have seen more DeAndre Swift, but
absolutely.
And look, pass blocking is a big deal. I absolutely understand that. But like this is how there's somewhere in the back of my mind where I'm thinking, this is Howie Roseman going, all right, Nick, now you don't have a choice.
Right,
you
have to play Saquon.
He has to be out there 80-90% of the snaps. So I love the idea. And it's true. A legit 3-down back in Saquon Barkley. When's the last time we've had that here in Philadelphia?
Yeah, it's LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah, shady.
And then before that was B-Doc. Really, I mean, that's really it, in our lifetime. B West, sorry, B West. So, yeah, you bring Saquon in, that's that guy that fits in right away. And I understand the direction that running back's going in the NFL, right? And that you don't have to pay top dollar for running backs anymore. I totally get it, but sometimes having a good back still helps you out a lot. Like the Chiefs did get one in the 7th round. Not every running back out of the 7th round is good. Like sometimes you just have to be great evaluators of talent. Andy Reid's pretty good at that. The guy's been, how many Super Bowls has he been to now?
A couple.
Yeah, there are some guys that are just good evaluators of talent. Like I know there's the great stories of this guy was drafted in the 7th round, and look at how little he's getting paid. They also drafted a guy in the 1st round not too long before that. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is really not that good, right? The teams have tried drafting running backs. The New York Giants drafted Saquon Barkley. That set their franchise back. He didn't. It's not smart to do.
Poor management, yeah.
It's not smart to do. So you pay a guy a little bit extra, which I know we hear all these great stories about the guys on low-level deals or rookie deals. I understand it, but, man, Saquon fits this team like a glove, man.
And it comes back a little bit to, I think, maybe Howie Roseman identifying his weaknesses. His weakness had been in the past trying to find that legit stud receiver in the draft. And what does he do? He goes out there and trades for A.J. Brown.
Yes.
They've had trouble drafting running backs. You could say Miles Sanders was a hit. He was fine. Miles Sanders was fine. They also drafted Donnell Pumphrey when that was like an all-time running back draft.
All-time running back draft.
Maybe this is him looking in the mirror a bit. Okay, I realize my weakness. My weakness is when it comes to identifying stud receivers. I went and traded for one. I'm not necessarily great at identifying running backs in the draft. You know what I'm going to do? Just sign the best one out there on the market.
Why not? And then you just have to hope that they can hit in the draft. And that's what it comes down to, and they've tried. That's my thing with Ramin, who was, upset. Like, we need to get Xavier McKinney. Should have gotten Xavier McKinney. Get Patrick Queen. Like, they have tried these positions in the draft. Hasn't necessarily worked. That's a conversation for another day, right? They may not have drafted a better running back, right? Like, you just got to sometimes to roll the dice. Let's go to Chargers Nick. What's up, Nick?
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Nick, the Chargers fan.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. So I just had a few quick points to feed in what the last caller kind of fed in. So, Saquon, we already know that's a home run ball right there.
Absolutely.
As far as like the defense, there's a couple of safeties that if you wanted to address safeties in free agency, there's one that also came to mind. He already said Justin Simmons, which I was thinking the same thing. But Buda Baker is still available. I mean, that's somebody. He's not just a cover safety. He's a safety that can also play like an extra linebacker position. He can play in the box. He's a hard hitting safety. Maybe somebody like Quandre Diggs, another good safety. Who can also play in the box. But if you're looking at linebacker. Of course, I would go with, Patrick Queen if he's still available. But if not, there's this linebacker that stands to mind out of Ohio State, Cade Stover. This guy is phenomenal. He can fit in the Eagles system. Like if you want to go with that direction, Cade Stover is a linebacker from Ohio State. So look out for that name as well.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, I mean, look, they have to draft a linebacker. They absolutely have to. And I wonder if it's different. Like if they draft. I keep on saying high draft capital, which a third-round pick, a day 2 draft pick is high draft capital, which they've done twice now in Kobe Dean and Davion Taylor. But maybe they go even higher. Maybe they go with a second-round linebacker. Do I believe that's going to be the case? No, I don't, because that's not what the Eagles do. But they also have to realize that they are loading up on other positions, and they're going to have to hit on some guys in the draft. And, linebacker is going to be one of them. They probably should draft another safety. Even though they have Sidney Brown coming back at some point from injury, Reed Blankenship might not be here much longer.
Right, and my next point is especially like with the defensive line, especially like with Josh Sweat, whatever he does. Like, how about this linebacker from this defensive end? His name is Laiatu. I probably butchered his name.
No, I refuse.
You refuse? Okay.
Here's why. He wants to be a fireman. And we already did.
I didn't hear that.
We already did this once.
Okay.
Danny Watkins with the Eagles in the first round. See, I understand you're a Chargers fan, so you don't understand.
Right.
You understand the fears where I have there, Chargers, Nick. I appreciate the call. When I saw him say that, automatic no. He came off my draft board in the blink of an eye. Once he said that, because he was hurt. I forget where he was before UCLA. I went through it, but before he was at UCLA, he was hurt for 2 years, and during his, I think he called it an injury retirement. Like, I think he thought he was done and decided to start playing again. He played at UCLA. And it was pretty good. He's going to be a first-round pick.
Yeah, he is.
So was Danny Watkins.
Yes, he was.
Who was also older and wanted to be a fireman. So, I'm sorry. You're automatically off my draft board. The guy that doesn't believe in birds, off my draft board. And there's a guy that doesn't believe in space, off my draft board. Automatically. You could be a surefire number 1 overall pick. You're off my draft board.
The fireman one's the biggest turnoff for me there. I'm good. The other two I'd consider. A.J. Brown might think the earth is flat too, but, it is what it is. So as long as you can play football, it's fine.
Well, he went earth is flat, which I still think is asinine. No space? Then what are you you looking at? What are those stars?
I don't know, man. They're all in the same thing. The no birds thing.
I understand the biblical aspect of it, but, like, space.
Look, man, what's that 40 time? That's all I care about. Come on now. That cone drill.
Sometimes, I got standards, All right, so let's talk about this for a second because everyone's, freaking out still about safety. Oh, my God. It's been 25 hours and 45 minutes, and the league year hasn't even started. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is still available. Xavier McKinney goes to the Packers. Cameron Curl is a guy that's still available. Julian Blackman is still available. He had an Achilles injury, right? I think he missed some time. So we'll see. Maybe a team picks him up. I don't know what his deal will kind of look like. But then Justin Simmons is there. Jordan Fuller is available. Jeremy Chinn's a name that's still popping up, a guy that I wanted the Eagles to draft.
It's crazy he's not getting more attention. He must have fallen off a bit because he's still, I think, mid-20s, and that was a guy drafted in the second round.
So there's a little write-up for him that says if Chinn had been a free agent 2 years ago, he would have ranked in the top 30 among all free agents. Injuries and his linebacker-like skill set, which fell out of favor during his time under defensive coordinator Ajiro Evero, hurt Chinn's overall value.
So it's a little bit of that like Jamal Adams where it's a big name but maybe doesn't fit today's NFL as much.
Right, or you're the team that you play for.
Sure, the scheme.
Because they mentioned specifically the defensive coordinator of Carolina. But he's a guy that I wanted out of college, and the Eagles drafted a quarterback.
Worked out pretty well.
It worked out pretty well. So that was full circle. Let's get Jeremy Chinn now that he's
trade for Justin Jefferson,
available.
too. Why not? It'll all come full circle, that draft.
Yeah, let's do it.
Speaking of that, Rager back to the Patriots. 1 year deal.
Wow, they must have really liked him out there.
It's big news.
Unbelievable. I'm sorry. Joseph checks in. I forget which caller it was who mentioned Cade Stover. Was it our last caller? He was talking about how he's like smacks his head and everything.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
He's a tight end. He does not play linebacker.
Play linebacker?
No. So maybe just mixed up the names.
It's possible.
But, yeah, Cade Stover's a tight end and not a linebacker.
Listen, man, Jason
Jason
Peters was a tight end.
Lane Johnson was a quarterback.
Okay, you never know.
Oh, man. I feel bad for Jameis Winston.
I can't stand him.
Really?
Yeah, I can't stand him.
I don't have a certain feeling as him as a person, but like the fact that he was still behind Taysom Hill, and then they bring in Derek Carr, and Derek Carr was awful last year,
bad.
awful. So he signed with Cleveland, and Josina Anderson reached out to him. And he still envisions himself as a starter. Now you're going to Cleveland where whatever you think about Deshaun Watson, he's going to be the starter. So he knows he's going to, do whatever he can to help Deshaun out. But he still believes that he can be a starter.
Well, I don't think Deshaun Watson has really any interest in playing football. Like I don't know how much that dude loves the game.
That might be accurate. He got a big payday. Oh, my God. All right, let's go to Dommy. Tasty Cake Dom. What's going on, man?
Hey, Andrew. Hey, Tom.
What's going on, brother?
So, Andrew, I'm a huge Howie fan, so I think that he'll address the defense.
It's not whether you're a fan of him or not. He has to, right? And so I believe that he will. And it's been reported that he will, which is why I don't get why some Eagles fans are still as panicked as they are.
Now, the first thing that came to mind, Andrew, with Saquon is the best way to play defense is not to have to play defense, right, Andrew? So if you got a fourth quarter lead and you got behind
you control that clock,
line,
baby.
You swallow that clock up, game over, right?
Right. Yep.
So that's the Saquon thing, and I think the Eagles are going to be okay. I love it. I love the Saquon signing. I love it.
Yeah, and they're going to address it. I mean, they did address the defense yesterday by getting Bryce Huff. Now, I know he's not a big name, right? Like, it's not the same level as Saquon Barkley, and we're still kind of waiting to see what they do with Josh Sweat. and or Hassan Reddick, right? I get that, but Bryce Huff's a good player. They bring him in. It's a typical Howie move, a guy that is 25 years old. They pay him decent money now and hopes that he overplays the value of the contract at some point. It's a typical Howie move, and then you see what else they do. They're linked to so many safeties at this point. You know they're going to get one, and it's Vic Fangio's scheme. They need a safety.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out. Real quick, Andrew, I wanted to give a shout out to Tom, because after that New Orleans game, Andrew, I didn't have no desire at all to watch that Knicks game Sunday. And Tommy said over the weekend that he still had a lot of faith in the Sixers, so I did watch it. And I'll be daggone, they got that win. Huh?
Yeah, and you watched some old school. You watched some old school basketball too, didn't you, Dom?
But Andrew, they win enough that you can't be done with them. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Look, they're
enough that you can't say after that.
They're gonna be a play-in team unless Embiid comes back with like 7 games left and they just go on a ridiculous winning streak. I know right now they're not a play-in team. They have a half-game lead over the Pacers, 1-game lead over the Heat. I think ultimately they do fall down into that play-in spot. But that was a good win for them the other night. You're right.
They win enough. Like after that Nets game and then New Orleans, I mean, you're like,
yeah, New Orleans was bad. Now, to their credit, they fought back. And thanks for the call, Dommy. But it was ugly. I had an appearance. I was at Barnaby's in Westchester, and it was a Sixers appearance. And we're watching that game. We're going, oh, what else is on TV? Caitlin Clark was playing. We ended up turning our attention to Iowa and Penn State more so than the Sixers.
They had 79 points. Joel Embiid scored 72 months ago himself.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Valanciunas was there, though. Did you see at halftime they had Lithuanian dancers out?
I did not see that.
And I was upset I didn't get an invite because I've participated.
It's a bad job by them.
I was very, very disappointed. All right, that'll do it. Best show ever coming your way next. No Tyrone today. Bill Calarulo filling in for him with Ricky and Jen. We will be back at it tomorrow. And you know what? I like that we didn't get breaking news, Tommy, because I get to react to whatever the breaking news is tomorrow.
I don't.
Show is already set, Ricky. Everybody have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll talk to you tomorrow right here, 97.5 The Fanatic.